Welcome to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 331. My name is John Morgan. Cold Coffee is with me, and I'm not even gonna, I won't even disrespect the man by calling him Hot Tea. I mean, just give him some casual nickname like that would just not be proper. No, this is
arch enemy.
Not going there.
Arch nemesis.
And I can't even say that this is Oscar Willis from the World MMA Award
Oscar
nominated
DeVille.
The Michael Mack Life. That would not be enough. That would not be giving him the proper respect that he is due at this time, because this is the World MMA Award nominated in the Journalist of the Year category, Oscar Willis. We have royalty with us today. Oscar, I just want to thank you for carving out time of your schedule. I know that you probably had a lot of projects lined up. I'm sure a lot of interview requests are in, that sort of thing. I want to just thank you for being here with us today.
Well, yeah, and as I told Ken earlier, I won't forget you guys, as I'm moving up in the world. But, no, it's important not to take these things too seriously. I think what we can learn from this is I am a god in this space, and soon you'll be begging for at my feet. But
no, congrats, man, congrats. I was happy to see it for you, man. Yeah. It's listen, Of course. Listen.
Everyone's as mercilessly competitive as you, for fuck's sake.
I mean, the man has put in the grind. I mean, look, there's nobody that's been to as many events and on the grind the way we have been. You've matched ours and even lapped us in a little bit of coverage because we had a couple furloughs here and there, right? So both Cold Coffee and I missed a couple of weeks. So, man, you really put it in, and I thought you deserved it. And look, man, I think it's cool. Now, listen, I get it, man. There's a share of people that like to poop on the World MMA Awards, and that's fine. That's up to them to do it. Yeah. I still think it's a cool recognition, man. And I honestly, I got nominated as well, and I still take it as an honor. I mean, I know that it's going to be very difficult to unseat the reigning champion in the category, but I don't know, man. I to know that peers are recognizing your work and seeing something, at least throwing it out there that, hey, you're one of the best in the industry and we appreciate what you do. I don't know, man. It does still mean something to me.
Yeah, like I do kind of want to make sure that I refuse to take it too seriously, because I think there's a ever-growing number of journalists who take themselves too seriously in this space. Well, not journalists, people who take themselves too seriously in this space, and I don't want to be like one of those guys, but obviously I was very happy to see it. It's cool for like my friends and stuff to see it as well.
Sure.
And I do feel like, not maybe because a lot of people couldn't get there, but I do think like 2020 through the pandemic up to now, like I did decent work, so it's cool to get that pat on the back. Yeah.
Have you gotten the are you getting the Mr. Second Question memes or anything?
No. Oh fuck, that would be the best one. We could wear like number 1 and number 2.
Yeah.
Walk around.
Like it's
that'd be really funny.
That would be actually pretty funny.
No, in fact, actually, like it's funny, and we were talking about this off air earlier. As well. Is that for me?
I love it. By the way, didn't even mention the fact that we are
so
in the spiritual birthplace of the MMA Roadshow, which is Buffalo Wild Wings at Warm Springs in Durango. And how do you know we're at Buffalo Wild Wings at Warm Springs in Durango? Because the frosty beverage that is sitting on the table here is 2/3 full, and they went ahead and brought me another one anyway because they're bringing one for Oscar Willis. They know that I will not have any problem catching up, and I appreciate that.
There you go. No, it's been cool, and it's been cool to see the different reactions. I actually got a lot of like plaudits from colleagues in the space, which was cool, and then I get to see a lot of colleagues shit on it in the space too, which I actually enjoy more.
I apologize.
Yeah, no, not even you. At least you didn't. I had some people who were like, I've never heard of him before. It's like, without sounding like an arrogant dick, I was like, if you watched a press conference in the last year.
In the last year, I've been one of the only
you're
people
welcome,
there.
Dude. In fact, I even had a guy, I won't say names, I remember on Fight Island, it was the Mike Perry thing with his wife, remember?
Right.
And I saw this fucking guy tweet like, oh, I bet none of the so-called media there are going to ask Dana about Mike Perry. And I was like, do you know what, motherfucker? Like, all right, I'll fucking ask. And then I did. And then that guy was like, yeah, some journalist asked it. And then yesterday was like, who's he being nominated for? It's like, what?
So, whoever this person
guy?
Is just does not like funny. You. That
it's
is
just a fucking...
And what are you doing reading the comments?
All right, well, because I enjoy his misery.
Well, congrats, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Would say to anybody that's listening, take a second. Go to worldmmaawards.com. Vote. There's a lot of great categories there, but, Journalist of the Year, Media Source of the Year. Obviously, the Mac Life is up for Media Source of the Year, as is MMA Junkie. I will, make the pitch for MMA Junkie as well. But if you're not going to vote for us, then you should vote for the Mac Life.
Why?
Oscar has done such a fantastic
We
job.
know some great people over at other outlets.
I don't know them. Some of those outlets I've never even heard of. To be honest with you, I'm not even sure what those are. No, and it was funny. I didn't put it out on social media, but I had a tweet all typed out that said, "A vote for me is a vote against Oscar Willis," and then just wanted to remind people. And then I actually texted Oscar, and I was like, "By the way, I didn't have the heart to send this because I'm not going to just step on you to."
I would have enjoyed it.
I knew you would. I knew you would have, but there'd be some people that wouldn't like read into it. They wouldn't get the joke.
See, then the thing would be in the comments would just be like, "Oh Jesus!" So, but yeah.
But congrats. We don't know about the ceremony. I'm hoping the ceremonies return. Last year they did. You know what? I think that's maybe one reason I enjoy the World MMA Awards as much as I do. Is those live ceremonies are fun, man. We all get dressed up, put a little suit on.
Do you get drink tickets as a nominee?
You do.
I didn't fucking get any last year.
You do. Oh, but that was your website did, but you did. Now, personally, you get to go get your drink tickets. Get to open bar, baby, the cocktail hour ahead of time. Oh man, that's
And then the worst thing in the world would happen would be I won after the open bar. Do you know what I mean?
Can you imagine? You know what? I'm almost going to say that people should vote for you just for that because after an open bar to see you on an open mic,
cancelled immediately.
Oh man, that would the very first one where a very drunk Diego Sanchez got up there. It was Just kiss. It was just absolutely amazing. All right, well, listen, enough about the World MMA Awards. But, yeah, please go vote. Congratulations to Oscar for the personal nomination in addition to the Mac Life, man. It's pretty cool, even though Kenny Cole Coffey over here hates you for it.
He has been shitting on me all fucking day.
He's bitter like that.
I shit on that whole fucking thing. It's not just you, but whatever. I let you have your moments.
You're terrible. All right, listen, we are this week covering UFC on ESPN 28. Not quite the show that we had last week, UFC on ESPN 27. I think going into it, I was saying I kind of felt a little nervous that maybe I was hyping it up a little bit too much. I kept saying I think this might be the best, non-pay-per-view fight card of the year, but it ended up being a pretty damn good card. Entertaining card. Top to bottom, man. Yeah. I loved it. This one,
on the flip side of that,
not quite as much. But I will say we just wrapped up media day, and when we came over here, frosty beverages in hand, we're enjoying our final day of mask-free society in Las Vegas. Unfortunately, if you haven't heard, here in Clark County, Las Vegas, we're going back to masks everywhere in public. So we thought, you know what? We should get together and go have a frosty beverage and enjoy it. Not quite the same excitement level around this card, but I will say the main event, it's a pretty meaningful main event. It's not going to determine a title contender, but you got two guys that are on nice winning streaks right now in Uriah Hall and Sean Strickland that, not young guys. Obviously, Uriah Hall a little bit longer in the tooth than Sean Strickland, but Sean Strickland, a guy that's been around for a long time as well. But guys that are on win streaks, I think guys that – I don't think either one of them actually cares about winning the title, but that are moving in that direction. Uriah Hall, on the one hand, does care about the opportunity to fight Israel Adesanya. He does think that would be a phenomenal opportunity for him. And I will say, honestly, stylistically, it is a fight that I was
thinking that too.
Right, it's a fight you want to see. Stylistically, I'd want to see it, but I don't know. I mean, does it interest Israel Adesanya, and can you justify? Because right now, Uriah Hall is not that guy. He's not the number one contender. But, another couple of wins, and he could be right there. But, I mean, can you justify a matchup with Adesanya and Hall without making sure Hall is the clear number one contender just because it's a fun fight?
No, because I think, realistically, Hall is a fun fight, but you got to think Darren Till. The UFC have wanted to make that fight with Israel for ages. Israel and his team have wanted to make that fight for ages. So Uriah Hall could probably beat Sean Strickland, could probably beat one other person, and I'd say Darren Till's still beating Derek Brunson away from the title shot. Derek Brunson's been on a tear too, man. Obviously he's lost to Izzy in the past, and it's pretty dominant, but that's a bit of a toss-up. And then Cannonier as well. Like you have to think as well. Israel has like a lot of sway with the UFC. Sure. Israel's also never been shy of saying who he'd like to fight.
Right.
Uriah Hall's name has never, ever been mentioned by him. And I think Izzy's at a point now where if he's like, I'd rather fight Jared Cannonier than him, the UFC give him Jared Cannonier, right? So I think Uriah's got a little bit more work to do just yet.
I just wonder if, don't you think? And you're right. Adesanya never has mentioned Uriah Hall's name, but Uriah Hall really wasn't in a position to be mentioned. I think, right? It starts to look a little weird if you're looking too far down, right? We've had that sometimes.
But he's never even responded. Like Uriah, who I'm sure we talk about, he's criticized the media for suggesting he hates Izzy.
Criticized the media for everything. He doesn't love the media.
But Izzy's never fired back once. Like Izzy fires back at people who ask him for a picture. So it's almost by design. I feel like Israel's like, no, not for you.
Yeah. I hate to see that. I'd like to see the fight. Stylistic, I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Speaking of Izzy, yay or nay on the French tips?
What?
Or is it mad sus?
Who are you?
As he said.
Who?
How's your
That's going off of his Instagram. He put out an Instagram
thank
pic.
God. I was like, are you just like I'm quoting the kids now.
I'm quoting the kids these days.
TikTok cold coffee.
But he got a French French tips on all of his fingers and his toes. So it's where they did it's like the clear and then the little white layer.
Sure.
But on his big toe, it was all fully big white thing. I wasn't a fan of that, but the rest of it, I thought it was a fine look.
What?
So you're pro French tips?
I thought it was okay.
I saw French tips as where you dyed the end of your hair blonde.
Maybe in hair it is. But I think in nails they call it that as well.
Or just the end of French men. I don't know, but
So you guys didn't see that?
I did not see that.
What you're talking about.
It was just like yesterday, I think.
So on his Instagram
or his Twitter, and he just tweeted, and it was kind of cryptic, and he just had a picture of his fingers with like the French tips, and he was like, "Yay" or "mad sus" or something like that.
Well, mad sus is a new thing the kids are saying. That mad sus means like, you're a bit on
like
the ducky side.
A little suspect, right?
Yeah, a bit gay, basically.
Okay, I'm taking a look at it right now, and
but he's changed it. I'm going to kick you in the mouth. Might as well make it look good. #Zohan.
That one may be the same, but maybe he did a Twitter.
Oh no, here we go.
Something.
Yep, French
right
tips.
there.
Yeah,
Well,
so I think he's
It's a very well done manicure.
See, I thought it looked fine. I thought the only one that looked weird was that big toe where it was all white. I thought he should have did the same like on the fingers, with just the strip on the top.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it makes it look like a fake nail.
All right, well, thanks, Ken.
Yeah.
All right, appreciate the and that is why you didn't get nominated for Journalist of the Year.
I mean,
TikToky.
to be fair,
it's what
he
the
saw
people care
information
about.
that me and you didn't find, so maybe he's the one who deserves it.
Yeah,
he's the better
who's
reporter.
who's getting the heat of the meat.
What?
The heart of the meat.
What? Oh my gosh, where are we? I read it talking about the heat of the meat. That is just
the heat of the meat, the sweeter the meat.
All right, so Uriah Hall, I'm assuming will not be in line for a title shot. But, I mean, I guess an impressive victory here could do wonders for his opportunity. I mean, look, the win over Rockhold, I do agree that anybody that's saying that's not a win, you can't discount that. I mean, yeah, you can't discount that. You know what I mean? And obviously the Anderson Silva one, that was a little different as well, but it's still a win over Anderson Silva. And I know he's not the same Anderson, but it's still Anderson Silva. It's a win streak. It's a 4-fight win streak in the UFC's middleweight division. That's not bad, but you're probably going to need one more. You win this, and then you're going to need to beat one of those names you mentioned, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the middleweight division, there is for me there feels like a clear line between your Costas, Cannoniers, now Vittoris, and Tills, and your names like Uriah, Gastelum, Shabosian, and Brunson. There's going to be. He's going to need to get a win. I mean, maybe if Darren wins against Derek, but it doesn't look great, they do him versusUriah.
Which I signed me up for that one. Sign me up for that one.
But yeah, I think you're going to need a win over one of those staples.
Is this the last opportunity for Uriah? Like, I mean, he's had like these starts and stops in his career, like this up and down, up and down.
What's the closest he's ever got to the title shot, do you think, in his career? I mean, he's never really been up there.
Now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's now.
Maybe after he knocked out Gegard, I felt like there was a lot of momentum behind him.
Right.
But he's never been able to run those ones together,
And he's not old, but he said, "Hey, man, I could do this for another 10 years," but I don't know, man. This is. Yeah. I think he's got a style that once it's gone, it's going to go kind of quickly.
Yeah, and do you know what's ironic enough as well? We're saying, he needs a win over this. He's lost to Robert Whittaker, he's lost to Derek Brunson, and he's lost to Paulo Costa. So maybe that despite
36,
he's turning 37 as well. I think he said today. But I mean, so maybe
you usually do that after you're 36.
In 2 days. The 31st.
Oh, in 2 days.
Yeah,
okay.
fucking 2. But maybe there's just a. Do you know? I feel I don't discredit his win over Weidman. Other leg injuries are not the same. But yeah, I think if that fight had been more back and forth,
See what you did there.
thank you. If that fight had been more back and forth, I think he'd have got more credit for it, right?
Right.
I
Even
mean?
if it had gone 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
If he did, yeah. So I think he kind of, it's like a win, but he also didn't benefit from it at all, really. So yeah, he's just in a weird spot, man. I really just wonder, like, I don't know if he's ever going to get up there, And it's funny because I went back through one of these binges of watching like old Chael Sonnen videos, and they were talking about the Ultimate Fighter while it was still embargoed, and we didn't know about it. And Chael was adamant that there was a future champion. And remember, Dana was like, "There's a guy," and it was all Uriah, and he just never seemed to springboard off it.
I mean, it sounds like he feels like, hey, at Fortis MMA, I'm at home. Talked about that a little bit today about the fact that, look, man, it's clicking for me now. I needed a family. I needed a support system. And he does seem like that guy, right? I mean, the guy's always felt like, I think he needs, I don't mean this in a wrong way, but like I think he needs somebody that's part psychologist, and I think that's what Saif Saud is.
Sure.
He's part psychologist.
It reminds me a bit like Kevin Lee, like he needs that coach to
the guru, the mentor, to guide him, because he has always felt like he has kind of a chip on his shoulder, and the world's doing him wrong, and he's angry when he doesn't need to be. I mean, for instance, like we were kind of talking afterwards, like every time Uriah shows up to the media, like we wonder what we're gonna get, and if he's gonna be mad at us, and like. Most of the time, we don't even understand. Like, I think we are all kind of like Uriah, and we certainly like his style. And it's just he comes in with a chip on his shoulder, like
it was the very first question you asked. He did the classic. What'd you say? It's just like Uriah. Come on. But
he's been doing this for 8 years.
He's a jovial guy as well.
Yeah.
Like he actually, I don't know.
Once he gets going, he started joking about the English accent and all. He started having a little fun. So I do think this is a big fight for Uriah Hall. I'm not saying it's now or never, but it just feels like he's got the momentum right now. And if he loses it here, it's going to be hard to start that back up. Meanwhile, Sean Strickland, a guy that feels almost like came out of nowhere, right? Like this is a guy that nobody was talking about. I feel like people are talking about him now. Maybe it's for the wrong reason. I mean, obviously that gym video that came out of him, losing his mind there kind of came up. But I feel like the stories are coming out, right? Like this is a guy that's been around the scene for a long time, and people have known who he is, but nobody ever really talked about him.
Yeah.
But now you're talking to fighters in all walk who have passed through, because he's been in Southern California, he's been in Vegas, he's been in 2 hot spots. He's been, a lot of people have been in the gym with this guy, and they'll tell you he's an animal. But they'll also tell you like he's an animal kind of in a bad way, like it's too much. So I don't know, I feel like people are talking about him.
Animal followed by the word dick, I think is like. But it's interesting because Sean was one of those guys. I really noticed Sean Strickland when he fought Jack Marshman and was shouting at him in the cage, like going, come on, Jack. That's the first time I really
remember that.
It's the first time I really sort of noticed him. And then his name kind of stuck in my mind, and then I noticed in a bunch of like random fighters doing media day, and they wouldn't make a point of it, but they'd be like, oh yeah, I was sparring Sean Strickland, and then they'd sort of make a face, and then I realized like after about 4 or 5, I was like, oh, this guy must like be a motherfucker in the gym. And then I don't know, I think Sean got very lucky getting this fight. I mean, but Sean reminds me a lot of Kevin Holland in that they're both very brash and say they like to be inflammatory. It's just that Sean didn't get the finishes that Kevin did.
Right.
That's the difference. They both fought during the pandemic era, which was a perfect platform for people to get on TV frequently. And I think if Sean had got more finishes, him and Kevin would be comparable.
It's a really good point. All right, let's do this. I'm going to play a little bit of Sean Strickland's time today. Not that we're ever exactly safe for work, but this is like really not safe for work.
Also, don't listen to like any veterans or anything. Just
go into a room by yourself and play this audio.
All right, here's a little bit of Sean Strickland. I trimmed it down a little bit because he goes on. So if you want to see the full thing, if you're enticed by what you hear, go over to the MMA Junkie YouTube page. You can watch the whole thing, but you got to catch at least a little bit of this because it's one of the more interesting scrums in recent history. That's for sure. Machado, you don't strike me as the emotional guy, the sentimental guy, but UFC main event, big deal for you?
I mean, it is what it is, dude. It's just I don't fucking know, dude. It's just a way like people try to make it feel special when it's just another day, just another fight. It's gonna be special if I win. If I get knocked out, I'm gonna look back like fuck, this sucked.
What about the build-up? Obviously the main event means like more media, more obligations. Are you learning to enjoy this at all, or is it still like the least favorite thing for you to do?
It's not, dude. It's just fake. It's just fake. Like, no one gives a fuck about you. You know, you're only special when you're winning. The moment you lose, if I lose, I'm gonna wake up Sunday. You guys aren't gonna give a fuck about me. You guys don't give a fuck. You know, so you just shouldn't take it too serious.
I think you're making some assumptions there. Maybe we really care about you.
Well, I mean, okay, I will say, like, there's some people in the MMA world that are like, I have some fans who they message me, they're about it. But as far as like any amount of fame, you shouldn't hold on to it. You know, we're all just fucking hairless monkeys going through the world. We shouldn't take ourselves too serious.
Fair point. Fair point. We'll talk about this win streak that you're on, man. Obviously, you've looked fantastic during this run. Are you regretting at all that you didn't move to middleweight earlier in your career, or is it something different than just that weight move?
Yeah, it's something different, man. I mean, even if I was at welterweight, you know, I trained with a lot of welterweights. I think that I would be highly successful. I think I'd be in the same spot if I was a welterweight. If anything, it would probably be easier to be fighting smaller guys. Mostly, like, the success is coming from a lot of mental work. Just, it's kind of funny, but accepting failure has helped me the most.
Interesting. Is it part of that attitude that you just mentioned, like not taking yourself too seriously and just...
Yeah, no, 100%. When you have something that you hold on to so tight you don't want it to lose, you start kind of being a pussy to prolong it. You know, you start like you stop wanting to take risk because you're so worried about losing it. And then as a middleweight going out the accident, it's been a lot easier just not to care. Yeah.
What is like kind of your focus then right now? I mean, do you think like I'm chasing a belt, I'm going after this Gloria? Is it not even really about like achievements or reaching certain levels?
It's kind of funny, man. Like, I was sparring some guy. He's like, "Hey, why are you sparring me? I'm nothing like Uriah." I'm like, "I just like to fight. Like, I don't even like with this training camp. I'm not even training for Uriah. I'm just being me, and you know, I just happen to be fighting."
Like, have you tried to get anybody that can replicate what he does, or is that not really part of your approach?
I trained a lot with Raymond Daniels for many years, so I mean, I've been seeing it a lot, but. The thing with Uriah, man, it's hard to replicate that. He's such a specialist where it's very difficult to find guys who can do that well. But, I mean, at the end of the day, just keep your fucking hands up.
I was going to say, so with that said, is it not really about reacting to what he does and making sure you do what you do?
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things you shouldn't worry too much. Like, if someone's a great wrestler, you shouldn't even worry about his wrestling. You should just go in there and fucking fight. If he takes you down and beats you up, it is what it is. Go back to the drawing board the next day.
Yeah. You talk about sparring. You're getting this reputation in the community as the hard-headed, tough guy in the gym. What do you think about that reputation? Do you enjoy it, or do you think it's wrong?
I like to spar. You know, I always use sparring as therapy sessions. That's all fighting is. It's just one big therapy session for me. I don't even look at it like a job. You know, people think, "Oh yeah, what do you think about fighting?" Like to me, it's mental health.
So is that like where you work out all your problems?
Oh, 100%. I always feel bad, dude. I'll have a bad day and I'll walk in the gym and my guy's like, "I'm feeling a little homicidal, suicidal today. I'm gonna apologize in advance. There's something fucking if I get a little carried away, you know, forgive me. I'm working through some shit right now."
And when you say that, do you find that there's people who are like, "Sean, we're not gonna go today. I'll be on the other side of the gym"?
Yeah, no, I definitely get ducked a lot, but I mean, at the end of the day, I make you better. It's one of those things like if you want to be good, you spar with me. If you just want to be mediocre and I'm gonna save it for the fight, and then you know go beat up amateurs.
I know you said like the fame and the notoriety and stuff is fleeting, but you win here, UFC main event, you know, over a notable guy. I mean, do you think about what comes next in terms of rankings, matchups, any of that?
No, I mean, the cool thing about Uriah, dude, he's like a gatekeeper. And I don't want to undersell Uriah to say gatekeeper, but he's a damn good gatekeeper. He's a guy you beat, and it propels you into one or two shots away from a title shot. You know, it's kind of a very interesting thing to think that it's within your grasp.
Does that change your approach to anything? Or like you said, you just like to go out there and fight. But when you think like there's these potential big paydays or these potential, you know, does that change things?
Let me tell you why I fight. I fight to make enough money to move on a mountain and vacate society. And if having a fucking piece of metal painted gold around my waist helps me do that, then let's fucking go.
I love it. Well, I guess last thing for me, what type of fight do you think we see here, man? I mean, obviously, Uriah's a little bit spectacular sometimes. I mean, do you see a spectacular fight, or do you go out there and dominate? What do we see here? You
know, I just spoke to Bisping, and I was saying that the way he fought Anderson Silva is kind of the way I have to fight Uriah. It has to be ugly, dirty. I'm going to get hit. It's probably going to hurt. You're going to see me get rocked a couple times, but that's how you have to beat Uriah. You know, it just is what it is.
You mentioned you get this reputation as the hard sparrer, but I'm curious, out of all the people you've sparred, who's given you the hardest time? Has there been a moment in sparring when you're like, God, this guy's going too hard, even for me?
Ankalaev, the 205er, guy's a fucking savage. He's a guy that truly frustrates me. And I'm sparring him, like I find myself getting angry. I can't fucking hit you. I can't take you down. Like he's probably one of the best. He's probably my toughest ever rounds, Ankalaev.
Yeah. I saw earlier this week something you sparred with Khamzat Chimaev.
Yeah, Khamzat, he's good, man. He's good. He's very similar to me with work ethic. You know, when he's in the gym, he doesn't stop. He doesn't slow down. He's one of those guys that the second round comes, you guys are both scrambling. You're just like, fuck, man. Like, why aren't you slowing down? But, you know, I'm sure he's thinking the same thing about me. You're just like, third round comes like, fuck, all right, this is the round he's going to slow down. He's not slowing down. And you're just like, all right, well, I guess this is my life now. We're just going to have to accept this level of suck.
Going back to Uriah, there's always this idea that, like, a fight against him is depending which version of him shows up, right?
Yeah.
Do you anticipate that you'll be able to tell early on in the first round, like, oh, the tough Uriah showed up, or maybe it's an easier night than I anticipated?
You know, with Uriah, I think because we've trained a lot, I'm going to get him at his best, and that's what I want. I don't want Uriah to come out as the fucking head case. I want him at his best, you know. And then I don't want if I win or if I lose, or if I win, I don't want to go back and be like, well, hey, you know, I beat Uriah because he's a fucking head case. Like that's a shitty way to win.
Mentioned just but training with him, he's actually got a reputation as a tough sparrer sometimes.
Uriah's kind of a cunt, man. Again, I like Uriah, so I say that. But, like, here's the difference between me and Uriah. I'll spar you and say, listen, man, I got a fight coming up. You're probably going to bleed. I'm going to try to fuck you up. I'm going to try to hurt you. I'm going to try to take your soul from you. And guys are usually like, well, man, thanks for telling me. Uriah is the kind of guy that says, hey, best friend, like, let's go watch anime after this. Like, we're really good fucking friends. Next thing you know, spinning back fucking heel kick to the face. So, I mean, me and him are a little different. I'm honest with my intentions. Uriah is like the hidden psychopath, where it's like me, like, I'll tell you, like, I like to hurt you. I like to fucking hurt you. Uriah is the kind of guy that will fucking knock you out and be like, oh, you okay? And then go beat his fucking dick off to it before bed, you know? Yeah.
I think you're like one of maybe 3 people in this entire organization who says the word cunt.
Yeah. I picked that from the English, man, or the Australians. I love it. Cunt. My favorite word.
All right, that is now that's got Cold Coffee. That's got to be your favorite fighter, right? I mean, when anybody will come in and drop a C-bomb, you know, I mean, Cold Coffee is always looking for any excuse to drop a C-bomb.
Every time he said it, I'd look over at Oscar to see if he was giggling because I figured if there was anybody in the room that was going to be giggling
I'm
at
the only
it.
one who repeated it to him.
I know that I didn't do. I was like, don't do it, just leave it alone,
It's hard. I tell you what, behind the curtain sort of talk here. It's hard to be professional when there's 4 of you in the room. You know what I mean? When there's especially these media days.
You talking about the fighters? Or for us?
Just for the whole, the media day, there's 5 people there today? Because a lot of people that have been coming are in LA right now, and we'll get to the Bellator card for sure. So, I mean, even though it's been small anyway, like it's...
Today was extra small. And then if you think, like, you know, so out of the 5 people, 2 of them are you for me, like, you know, 2 of my friends that I goof around with. It's pretty hard to... And it's a weird sort of dynamic because they're in a press conference, but we're also like 2 feet in fucking front of it. It sort of lends itself to be a bit silly.
Yeah,
I think a bit more informal than probably
very
something
much
bigger.
informal.
Well, and Sean Strickland's just not going to be.
Yeah,
I mean,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here's what I'm interested about Sean Strickland because he's a character, right? He's a character that has some very strong political beliefs. He's a character that will certainly offend a lot of people. I think I didn't see it, but I think you guys were mentioning
everybody that just listened to it.
Well, right. But I think you guys were mentioning, right, that he attacked the Canadian Prime Minister today.
I think that was it. Yeah, also behind the scenes. But yeah, I think he did an interview with a Canadian outlet, and they couldn't use it because he called, you know, Justin Trudeau a predator and stuff like that. So
I mean,
I don't think that'll ever see the light of day. But also, I think if you listen to Sean Strickland, you probably guessed he thought that.
So here's what I'm wondering about Sean Strickland moving forward. I mean, this would be a big win for him too, right? Like you said, he got kind of lucky to get this fight. I mean, I hate to say lucky. I mean, it's an opportunity for him. As he said there, like chasing gold, like whatever. It's just, you know, the bottom line is he wants to get as far away from society as possible. Like, can the UFC market this guy? Because I'll be honest with you. I was cracking up during that scrum. Like, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I had so part of me was like, dude, I want to talk to this guy every week. But the more he talks, he's going to piss people off.
Well, also, I think the thing about Sean as well is, whereas you might say Kevin likes to annoy people, I also think Kevin knows when, like, you can't drop the C-bomb on ESPN, right? I think Sean Strickland comes across to me as if you tell him don't drop the C-bomb on ESPN, the one thing you can count on is he's going to drop it as many times as he can. He just comes across as that sort of guy.
Right.
So, I don't know what you do with him, really. Like, can you imagine, like, seriously, on a serious level, because, you know, the UFC, I know for a fact Dana hates that word on TV, right? Can you imagine, like, a Strickland versus Israel press conference? I mean, the two.
Even look. I think somebody in our chat, we ended up chatting on the YouTube stream today because we had like an 80-minute break between the two corners. So we ended up turning the mic up and talking, and somebody was saying, you know, I can't imagine a press conference with like him and Vettori. Yeah. That would go crazy. Now you start talking about him and Till. Yeah. Him and Holland.
Well, that's like I remember that there was like, so apparently before it was Volkanovski and Ortega, it was going to be Till Adesanya doing the coaches of the Ultimate Fighter. They'd have been on TV a week. You know, like what the like they would have been off TV in a week because Till and Adesanya and as a Strickland, they're the sort of people like, oh, you said this, well, I'm going to say this. You know, it's just,
I know. I remember joking with you about that and saying like, dude, they would have filmed the whole thing and then got done and be like, we have nothing. Like we can't use anything. Like we can't use any of it.
The sushi thing happened in day one. You know.
All right. So I am curious to see what happens. Did you guys? Well, I should probably talk to the potential future two-time MMA Junkie picks champion. I mean, clearly a man with far more expertise. First of all, I've never won one title. I've always been in like second or third, like every damn year.
Well, you're in second now?
I know I'm in second now, but I'm behind you.
Yes,
but
you
hey,
are.
that just goes to show you the quality of knowledge that you're getting with the MMA Roadshow. You know what I mean? So I don't know which way did you lean in this one? Because I leaned Strickland in this one.
I did too.
But man,
really?
I did.
Well, and that's the thing. You know, after I saw him today, I definitely felt like Uriah's headspace was better. And I don't know why I always assume I don't know what I'm going to get from him, because I think the last time we saw him, I thought for what little bit that we saw, I thought that he looked in great physical specimen. He always comes looking in decent shape or great shape, you know, for these fight weeks. I don't know. Maybe it's just me buying into the hype of what Strickland's been able to do recently. I think part of it for me was just like he's just been sort of this X factor getting these wins against some of these guys that I didn't really think that he was going to get, and he slowly crawled his way up, and now he's in the smack dab in the middle of the top 15. And so when I just looked at him, I just chose his momentum over what I thought could be a Uriah that we've seen where he's super focused, but then something weird happens on fight night, and I didn't know what to get. So literally, I still go back and forth in my head on this one. I'm not as confident, but I did lean towards Strickland. But it just ultimately boiled down to the fact of Sean, for me, just feels like he's the universe is working in his favor recently, and eventually at some point you're going to run into an athlete that luck and just pure heart isn't going to carry the day, and this might be that fight. This might be the fight where heart isn't going to win.
I'm with you on that one, man. But I'm with you. I thought Strickland was going to kind of just, like, he's not going to stop. Like, he's not a head case because he's just single-minded, you know what I mean? And he's going to continue pushing through it. He's just a mean dude, right? Like, he just goes in there and wants to fight. But I heard some chirps over there, so I'm assuming you're leaning the other way and don't see it that way at all.
I was just trying not to blow my nose into the microphone, to be honest. No, I to me, it's not something I've really thought about too much. I think I kind of, we've heard this for, like you said, 8 years or whatever. It's like, which Uriah is it going to be?
Yeah.
I mean, at these media days, I love to look into crazy amounts of shit.
Sure.
I found it interesting that Sean Strickland was like, oh yeah, Uriah in sparring, like he pretends to be nice, and then you get a wheel kick in your face, and then Uriah said, oh, Sean's the one who goes hard, and then I'm the one who has to meet him and I see if he's okay. And that to me just felt like, okay, so they've had some absolute wars in sparring that to me it felt like Uriah maybe got the best of. That said, I do completely agree with Ken that, like, the momentum today, just the general energy, felt like Sean's was on the rise, and I do think that really does play a part in fighting. I'm kind of in a weird way, curious to see the weigh-ins. Like, if Sean gets all fucking crazy at the weigh-ins, I think he could probably get into Uriah's head. It was not that difficult. You know?
Even thinking about that, I looked at, when you put their images in your head, I thought both of them looked super good today, but I also kind of thought like Uriah was carrying some extra today that maybe that's why his personality was so good, because when we see him on
and by the way, this is Thursday.
Tomorrow,
this is Thursday. Now, normally we're doing Wednesday media days. We did it Thursday this week because of some they were shooting contender stuff.
And I wonder if that threw the fighters off too, because, I mean, this is the day before they're cut. This is the point where if they are actually struggling, this is the day where they say, don't mess with me.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me. I'm in my cut. And when I looked at everybody today, everybody seemed happy.
Which
everybody seemed whatever.
They get on stage.
This is normally the day they.
Everybody seemed happy. We'll get to that in a
minute.
We'll
get to her in a second.
But
you understand.
But at least she looked like she was closer to fight weight.
Oh, so you also understand who we're talking about. Yeah.
But no, I just think Uriah, normally when we see him on tomorrow, he's going to be a lot more sunken. I'm just wondering if these guys left the media day today and went straight into cutting. But today, both of them looked like well refreshed. They didn't look like they were in a hard cut, which bodes well for a good fight, because if both of them are really, really close, we know we're going to get an awesome fight, But if it's the point that tomorrow we see a Uriah come in and he's like just drained or whatever because he hasn't put himself, then I'll feel a little bit more confident in the fact that I think Strickland is good to go, because he looks pretty close to what he does fight night today. He had you could tell he had a little bit left to go, but you couldn't really tell by his demeanor, unless that's what weight cut does for him, is makes him sort of go absolute bullshit crazy,
I do want to say, by the way, I didn't play the Uriah Hall audio, but if you want to go check out that video, Oscar, you did repeat the quote from Sean word for word back to him, and he had kind of a bizarre reaction.
Yeah, it was. I kind of thought like, he started off being like, standoffish like he always does, but then by the time John had sort of asked him his questions, he
I thought he was going to make you repeat it again. I was like, oh, we got to hear this again.
No, so I just read him the quote, which it was, whatever it was, ended with, he knocks you out and then goes home and jacks his fucking dick off before he goes to bed. I didn't do the delivery properly. I really should have gotten into it. But it honestly looked like Uriah just had a car stalled, like his brain just went, because he just kept going, that's interesting. That's interesting.
I mean, in fairness, like, it tripped us out. Like, can you imagine hearing it secondhand? He probably did go like, what? He said I go home and masturbate after sparring?
And then his reply, because I listened to it multiple times to entertain myself, was started off in slow motion. It was like, if you're somebody who knocks someone out and then goes home and jerks off, you're a psycho. I was like, yes, that's what he was calling it.
That was funny. By the way, I wrote a story today about Uriah Hall. It was my job to write the piece for MMA Junkie, and I of course did include that quote in print, because how could you not include that? All right, listen, I don't want to spend a ton of time breaking down the fights, but I do want to go through a couple more of these. Kyung Ho Kang, who I think is a very, very talented fighter, and who honestly has a ton of skill, but has been plagued with layoffs. First, of course, the South Korean military commitment that you need, and then he had some injury, and I believe he got married, was part of the 19-month layoff that he had. He's returning. This is actually a new co-main event against Uriah, who I think I think it's disrespected. He's a very, very skilled martial artist, and obviously incredible grappler. And I think, listen, he's an interesting cat to talk to, because he's very monotone. He's very kind of low energy, but I liked kind of what he said. When he's talking about like the state of martial arts and stuff, and it's like, look, to me now, there's really only two things: you're either a striker or you're a grappler. You know what I mean? Like these different arts, they've all melded together. You know what I mean? And I thought that was pretty intriguing, and I do think he's kind of carrying the mantle for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now. That Damian Maia is hanging up. This is probably your most accomplished, at least veteran. You've got some others coming into the game, but I'm intrigued by this fight. I don't think it's real impactful or meaningful, but stylistically it could be fun, and you know what you're getting with Uriah. Either you're available to keep him off of you and you win, or he takes you down and you lose. And so we'll see how that plays out.
I gotta make sure I tell Rodolfo Vieira. You say that Yaya.
Well, that's why I said the established veteran. Rodolfo Vieira is also quite accomplished in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. but he's only a couple fights into his career. You know what I mean?
He's a sweetheart, though.
He's a good dude, man. And I love the fact. I mean, how great is it that Hidalgo was just open? Like, man, dude, I get scared when I get in there. Like, I'm not like the fact that you can stand in front of everybody and be like, it scares me to step in the cage.
Yeah,
like,
he's
that's
like the
awesome.
next generation of Brazilian badass. I think the first ones were like, oh, we eat meat and then we just destroy people, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I have feelings as well. And it's like, we love you.
He's great. All right, let's talk about the female matchup here. Cheyenne Bays and Gloria DePaula. When you talk about who was not having a good day, not angry, listen, I'm just going to say I'm kind of a little worried for Cheyenne Bays, man. It feels like she's angry, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad. And maybe, I mean, listen, we had to talk about the loss, right? You had to bring it up, the loss, and obviously that was a big storyline. Her and her husband making history, and it was all set up to be a great moment. They both lost. It's a setback. I didn't necessarily feel like she was mad at us particularly, just mad, just absolutely angry. Obviously, she doesn't like Montserrat Conejo very much, and she says while she did not indeed follow that bitch home, she would have had the UFC staff asked her to, and she basically dropped a more elaborate version of on site. You know what I'm saying? Like she basically said she knows how it stands between us, and if we see each other, it's going to go down. But I don't know. I got to be honest with you. I'm a little bit worried about Cheyenne Bays in this because I don't know, man. I guess maybe you got to tap into whatever you need to tap into, but going in with what seems like a massive chip on her shoulder against the world, against everyone. She literally did say the world was against us with her and her husband JP. I don't know, man. I'm a little bit concerned here. And by the way, I picked her.
Did you? I did not pick her. And after seeing that today, I'm glad I did.
I'm a little hesitant.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't. I just think that. I mean, while she's a great striker, the thing I took from today, and perhaps I'm wrong, and perhaps I just completely just went one way and then just wasn't going to come back the other way, was that I just felt that she spent the whole time blaming others and didn't take any sort of credit or blame for past performance. It was either I had so many injuries, I had so many whatevers, my coach should have pulled me out, I should have did this, I wasn't at the right place, just life took me here and that's the only reason I was there. I didn't really want to be there, I just made the most of it, this. Then now I'm back with my team. So, and my question is, if it doesn't go well, who's she going to have to blame after this? I just felt like there was no sort of self-reflection of, oh, I could have did this better. I did this. This is where I did something wrong. I just felt like it was always deflecting everything outwards.
And for anybody that doesn't know, she had been in Dallas at Fortis MMA. She left Fortis MMA to come back to Extreme Couture, which is where she started her career.
She was at Vegas and then went to Dallas.
Which I was not aware of. I didn't know she'd made that change. But so she went to Dallas, and she basically explained she only went to Dallas because she had to because her husband was getting a green card and all that, and they had to be. That's where her family lives, so they had to be somewhere where they had residency and all this. And obviously, if you have to be in Dallas, you go train at Fortis MMA because it's a phenomenal camp. But she said, I really feel like my heart was at Extreme Couture, and maybe it is. So maybe that is a positive. But it just seemed like she had a chip on her shoulder today,
and she really did,
and not in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, and I am 100% behind her when she says that the team that's had Extreme Couture, it's a hell of a team. What I found interesting, and I was going to ask you and just talk about it offline or whatever, is I thought it was interesting that she was saying, like, at Fortis, I didn't have a wrestling coach. Mm-hmm. There's no wrestling coach. I didn't have a striking coach. I just found that odd. I've never heard anybody complain about Fortis not having a level of coaching in those areas.
Right.
Everybody's there getting training something. Maybe they don't have a specific person, but I've never heard
they
anybody
don't have like
say
they don't have like that full-time staff or whatever, which is interesting, I guess, because that's an interesting point I hadn't really thought about. It's interesting because even when you talk about these huge camps, which obviously Extreme Couture is once again becoming a massive camp. It has shrunk down for a little bit. It's becoming a massive
Vegas,
camp.
There's pretty much two major ones.
That's it.
I mean, Extreme
Shout
Couture
out Eric
and
Nixick for doing that, I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, man.
Nixick's
Eric's done a phenomenal job, and I get it, man. Why you wouldn't want to
do
do
that? Good on him getting
World MMA Awards nomination as well.
I actually voted for him as coach of the year.
Did you?
So did I.
Not a bad vote. Not a bad vote.
He's a good dude.
Now, who did you vote for as journalist of the year? Remind me.
Which one?
The journalist of the year. Did you?
Doesn't remember that category. Doesn't remember that.
Is that a category there?
It's the most important one. But yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, but because and then even like you take like an American Top Team or like Jackson Wink. Well, Jackson Wink MMA wasn't as much, but American Top Teams will do. Where even like within the camp, you kind of have like sub camps within the camp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, those big mega camps,
ATT
especially
has
like,
that, right?
Yep.
ATT has
especially
subcamps.
those particular ones that you said, when you start talking about a place that actually had dormitory for the fighters, like you're on a whole nother level. If you're like, oh yeah, when fighters want to come to town, we can actually put them up in our dormitory. It's like, okay, yeah, you're a mega camp, you know. So of course, you know, Extreme here, you know, Syndicate's another probably one of the biggest ones that I would say is here. Those are huge camps, you know, and they've really, their momentum has swung. So for her to come back, she's at a great place. And those are places that, I guess, have a full-time person that can say, yes, I'm the wrestling coach.
Right.
Or, yes, I am the striking guy. But they all still filter through. For the main part, there's going to be those major coaches that they work with. You know, I guess it's unfortunate that, I guess, Fortis didn't have that person that she felt was what she needed. So if she feels that she's back there, she's back with something, the structure that she understands better and that it feels better that she can thrive. And maybe it's just a matter of just being around the team. If she's feeling like she never really felt at home there,
Right.
that can affect the performance. And
And
maybe the training in the camps didn't give her what she needed. So
it absolutely has. To me, I think it's an interesting look into the psychology of a fighter, right? Because on the one hand, you have Uriah Hall, who says, "Man, I've been looking throughout my whole career
until I
got to Fortis, and that's me. That's my home.
crazy we
That's
had
where I need
those
to be." And then
moments
you have the
after
same
each other.
person, Cheyenne Bays, who says, "Man, I was in Dallas, and don't get me wrong." And she was look. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. You know, there were a great group of guys there, all, but it's just not the right spot for me. I wasn't getting what I needed.
I'm glad
there.
that she brought that sort of back at the end, because for the whole part, I was like, fuck, you sound disrespectful completely. Until she was like, I don't mean to sound disrespectful. I was like, okay, it sounded for a while there.
Cole Coffee goes
you
hard
know.
for safe. Right? You know
Well,
what I
no.
mean? He's like, he
Well,
will
no,
not
but,
tolerate any
you get-
disrespect of safe so.
But didn't you guys think that? Like,
Oh,
when
no,
she
no, I
first,
did.
I was like,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
I was like, I actually sent John a message, and I was like, did she literally just throw like
Yeah, but
Fortis
don't-
under
don't-
the bus for her
Don't you
loss?
think it wasn't just Fortis? I mean, I'm not trying to shit on Cheyenne here, but like, I felt like she was just, you know, if you gave her long enough, she'd blame Lady Diana for something. Like, she's just
Right.
blaming fucking everything.
Yeah,
R.I.P.
and I liked the girl. I mean, I rooted her for her last fight. I thought her personality was incredible. She's not hard to look at. I like her energy, you know. And then it just struck me as
It
like
just struck me as something
I was
was
like,
off. It just struck me as
I was
off.
like,
It struck me as off.
You know, and like she said, she did say, you know, even later on, when she started talking about Eric and the team here and how she was happy, I was great to see the emotion, but she literally got a little teary about it. She's like, it's just the weight cut. So I'm not going to look too far into it, because maybe part of what we saw today is a matter of weight cut, and she said things that maybe weren't properly formed. And that's why I was glad that she, at the end of things, was like, I'm not trying to like say this about Fortis or whatever. You know, but it just, because it felt like up to that point she was blaming all these past things that why they didn't work out, these injuries that she had been having. She didn't have the proper coaching or whatever. And that's why I said, if it doesn't work out this one, then what is your excuse going to be?
Yeah, and just to be 100% clear, like, I don't think any of us are sitting here trying to just pick on Cheyenne. Like, actually, you know,
I like her.
and like I said, I
think
picked her
all
in this
three
fight.
of us were like
It
that,
was
yeah.
just off-putting where I'm like, ooh, is she not in a good place right now?
Yeah.
Like, so it's a little bit. It's
Probably
a little bit
just a
concerning.
shitty weight cut is all it boils
Could be.
down is
To
just
be honest,
a shitty weight cut.
I think her and her husband are both strike me as, you know, she said me the world against us. They strike me as, you get those guys who they want to feel like they're fighting against the odds
Right.
and everything like that. And I think she's just getting into that mindset. I mean, she's clearly a bit of a fucking savage. She threatened to follow her bitch home. I mean, it's like, she's clearly a fucking savage. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was her first reaction. Was, I'm going to follow you home. She's clearly a fucking like.
That's a great point.
Do you know what I mean? So I think she probably just needs to get into that, and I think she how to word this, in women's division where like the technicality is still maybe catching up to the guys. Oh, actually, I was about to say like her savagery will overcome that, but then she just lost to like a fucking.
Yeah, she got held down in that position. But you are right. I mean, like, you think about like Ronda Rousey was, you know, her judo was a big part of it, but it was also just her aggression.
Yeah.
You know, that was a massive part of what made her so successful.
Yeah, I think she's she has everything. She has everything around her that I can see that the UFC would love to get behind her, you know. And I think she wins like a couple. They'll propel her. You'll see the machine behind her. But as we've both said, it feels like when someone talks like this, it's a concern. There's a limit to how much they can grow. You know, how much can you grow when it's And also about the Fortis thing about I didn't have the coaches. Her and her husband seem to me like a pretty strong unit.
Yeah.
And it seems like not a lot of people get to go really into that unit or near that unit. And I wonder how much, does it hint? I mean, this is pure speculation, super irresponsible. But, I can imagine her and her husband being like, we'll train with each other today. We're not training with anyone else.
Yeah.
And I can imagine coach. There must be a point where coaches go, fuck it. Do you know what I mean? Have at it.
Hey, and listen, I can tell you, I mean, I guess it's an off-record conversation, but I don't think it'd mind being sharing. But, before she was on the Contender Series, Safe was telling me, he's like, dude, watch this chick Cheyenne. She's legit badass. Just watch.
We watched her and we said, oh, that girl is
Yeah,
savage.
so it's they. I mean, I know that Safe and the team there was behind her. So again, maybe it's just that mindset she needs to be in, and she's going to go out there and she's just going to f up Gloria to Paula, and it'll all be like, oh yeah, that's just where she need to be. But it just
it's the kind of fight that's going to play into her style because both these girls like to stand and bang.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's what she needs. Conejo didn't want to have any bit of that. She's like, why should I? If you
Scarf
can't get me off
we're
of
holding
you,
there.
if you can't get up from me, I'm just going to fucking grind it out, and that's it. This fight probably is going to be bent in her better favor, but I still didn't pick her. So sorry, Cheyenne.
All right. We'll see how it plays out. It's going to be one way or the other. All right, listen, one of the things I like to do with this show is maybe shine a light on some people that don't get that light. And I want to do that today with Jared Gooden, man. This dude, the energy that he brought in, the fact that I respect the fact that, look, this guy's 0-2 in the UFC. He's had some good fights, but he's come up short. He knows, what's at stake here, and yet he decided to take a fight on short notice, to come in on short notice, and he did that. And to me, man, I respect the hell out of that, and I just thought he had a great attitude, and I thought he was actually kind of funny as well. So here's what Jared Gooden had to say today. Jared, give us a story. How did this come together? Because it came together on rather short notice.
Yes, sir. I was literally training with my coach. We're in our gym, and just the idea popped up. He said, hey, how about you hit up your manager, see if anybody falls out this weekend, you can take it. Sent my manager the text. He's like, Sean, just hit me up saying you need somebody. I'm like, dude, I want it. And so that's how we got here. That was Tuesday morning, so I'm just glad my coach put that idea in the air, and I'm just glad I was able to capitalize on the ultimate opportunity.
That's wild. So just fortunate timing, basically.
Yes, sir. Like I said, go.
So what made you? Do you know what made you think we're ready for a fight right now? Do you know why he thought that was the case?
We're always ready. So I'm not one of those fighters who take time off and shit like that. I'm always in the gym, So we believe don't have to get ready if you stay ready. You know what I mean? So we're always ready. So like I said, this is just ultimate opportunity. I'm just glad we can take it.
Very nice. With that said, I don't want to be the negative guy, but job could be on the line, right? So are there any concerns hey man, if we're going to do this, we got to get a win. We need to game plan. We need to prep for an opponent. Was there any of that kind of discussion?
No, it was so it kind of was we know my job's on the line right now. Like I said, I'm 0-2 in UFC, but it's just one of those go out there and get it done. You know what I mean? I'm one of those guys that I just want to go and do. You know what I mean? The more I think about it, the more it weighs on me, if that makes sense. That's why I like the short notice. I can just get in, get out, and just go.
Nice. What do you think about Nicholas's opponent? Have you had time to really break him down at all or anything?
Nah, man. As soon as I took the fight, no, I haven't had time to look him up. My coach and my teammate have. I don't really look at my opponents. You know what I mean? I like to leave the surprise for in the fight. You know what I mean? But I know they've put into our training, and not even just the training, but the way we talk to each other and stuff like that is how we're preparing for them. So I'm just ready for anything. I'm just ready to step in there and just get the job done.
Is that a situation where you don't really like to watch tape because you don't want to focus too much on what they're doing? Is that kind of the situation?
Exactly. You know what I mean? It's like watching an opponent. I evolve every fight. You know what I mean? If you watch my first fight in the UFC to my last fight to this one you want to see the Saturday, I've evolved. You know what I mean? So if you're watching my first fight or my second fight, expecting me to do the same thing, you're sadly mistaken.
Nice. So when you said, hey, I'm ready for a fight, do they call you back and say, this is the guy, are you with it? Or do you just we've already got a fight for you, this is the guy? Was there any consideration as to who the fight was with?
Nah, well, it was just they need a guy, and so when they told me they needed it, I was like, I don't care who it is, put me in. That's what it was. So I didn't know the guy's name. I never really care. I just want to go out there and do.
Very nice. What's the goal here then? You're coming in on short notice. Is it just hey, we got to get a win at all costs because we're trying to protect our position on the roster? Or is it let's just go be exciting and see what happens? What's the goal here?
The game plan is for the finish. You know what I mean? A finish always establishes a comeback, if that makes sense. So I'm not. My only thought is to get a finish. Go out there, have fun, and get a finish. That's what I'm thinking about.
Nice. And last thing for me, do you feel like you're fighting with your back against the wall, or is it just? You've had great fights, so maybe it's well, he's exciting and he did step up on short notice, so we're gonna let him go anyway.
No, I do believe my back's against the wall, and I kind of like it this way, especially even short notice. I feel like everything's against me. You know what I mean? Pressure makes diamonds, or it breaks you, and I believe it's gonna make me a diamond.
Hey, Jared.
How's it going, bro?
Good. I know that you had some work with Phil Rowe in the past, but you're fighting on the same card as him. How does that make you feel?
I feel great because when me and Phil both got signed with the UFC after he won Contender and I got signed, we were supposed to fight on the same card last year. It was August 22nd, and sadly he had to pull out because of injury, and then I had to pull out because of injury. But I just feel like it's destined. You know what I mean? We're supposed to be on the same card together. We're both going to be on the same card this Saturday. We're both going to get wins together this Saturday. So I just feel like it's destined. I can't wait to go out there and do it.
And they put you on the main card on ESPN. I mean, how's that feel?
It's awesome. You know what I mean? I'm not too focused on it. I'm just focused on getting the job done. You know what I mean? I'm going in there. I'm going to fight my ass off, and keep my job.
Do you find it, your first two fights, but do you find it frustrating that you haven't been able to show the UFC fans your finishing style? I mean, you sleep guys and you put them out, but you haven't been able to show that. Do you find that frustrating?
I don't want to say frustrating. If I'm frustrated with anything, it's me. You know what I mean? 'Cause I have to do it, if that makes sense. But I don't want to say frustrated. It's just I've been learning a new skill, and when I joined the UFC, I was learning new skills and to better myself. So really, it's just I'm gonna go out there. I'm just gonna show y'all what I've been working on. This was what's gonna happen.
And finally, for me, where did Night Train come from?
Seriously, it came from my uncle. My uncle used to draw for Marvel and make comics for them. And so I'll never forget, I won the Georgia amateur title, and my uncle was there with us. And my mom asked him, "What would you name him?" Because my nickname back then was My Bad. And he was like, he looked at me for a good minute, and he's like, "Night Train." And I'm like, "Why Night Train?" He's like, "Because you're always moving forward like a train in the fight, and you're dark as fuck." I'm like, "God damn it, man." This motherfucker.
Well, it's fantastic.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. Bet. Hit you with my slogan, choo-choo, motherfuckers. Have a great day.
All right, that was Jared Gooden. I thought, I don't know, man. Like I said, I respect what he's doing, and I enjoy the energy, man. I thought you guys might enjoy hearing from him. Maybe somebody you can cheer for a little bit on fight night.
I'm cheering for him. I picked him.
Against Nicholas There you go. Yeah, you're I think the only one that picked him, right?
The only staffer, I think.
That's crazy. So that would be a big one for Cold Coffee and his repeat quest.
Yes.
I was about to say request. I was like, a quest
Get
for
that
a
ring
repeat.
again. Get that second ring.
A quest for a repeat is not a request, even though it sounds very similar.
Sounds very close.
Zaruk Adeshev versus Ryan Benoit got moved up to the main card. I think that's going to be a fun fight. Stylistically, it should be fun. Again, maybe not the most meaningful fight in terms of rankings, but I think it'll be fun. But then one more little piece of audio I wanted to play for you. I know this wasn't the biggest UFC card ever, but Bryan Barberena, man. I knew he had gone through emergency surgery and he had to pull out of a fight. What I didn't know is exactly what had happened, and maybe the story was out there and I just didn't see it, and I apologize if that's the case. But either way, I was hearing it for the first time today, so I assume some other people might be hearing it for the first time. This is some pretty intense stuff, man. And I mean, obviously I don't know how you don't like Bryan Barberena, man. The guy's just a scrapper and a good dude, and wears his nail polish colored because of his daughter and all that, but man, what he went through is pretty intense, to say the least. So I want you guys to hear this from Bryan Barberena.
Bryan, man, welcome back. What happened? Can you explain what you went through?
Yeah, I ruptured 2 arteries in my abdomen. I guess my omentum is where the arteries were. It's a protective layer over your intestines and your stomach and everything like that. I guess they call it I was just looking it up because I had to ask my wife. I didn't know the technical stuff, but it's like the policeman of your body or whatever, protecting everything, all your internal arteries and everything like that. So I ruptured 2 arteries in there. It's a miracle that I'm here, honestly. It's a miracle. They said 2 minutes longer and I was a goner, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you doing something when this happened, or was?
Yeah, I was training for the Daniel Rodriguez fight, and actually was the Friday, the last training day before I head to Vegas, and I was doing my sparring rounds. Got kicked in the first practice round, and it wasn't crazy hard or anything like that. Just kept going and finished my rounds. Did great. Hung out for a while, talked to the guys, and then it was time for me to head home, which is about a 4.5-hour drive. And was driving, and was starting to have some stomach pain, and was telling my wife because I was talking to her on the phone, and she's like, "Well, I'll come get you if you want to just pull over, stop, you don't have to worry about it. I was like, oh, no, I'll make it. I'll be fine, and I'll rest up and be good to fight next week. And then I was driving, and all of a sudden, it's like I started tingling everywhere from my head to my toes, and then sweating like crazy, like I was just got done with a session. And all of a sudden, my vision went out. And I was on the highway, and I was like, I'm telling her, like, oh, my gosh, my vision went out. I can't see. And she's like, oh, my gosh, you need to pull over. So all I can think was like, okay, just swerve to the side and try to get to the side, feel my tires dip, and that's when I hit the side, the side of the road to stop. So I did. Thankfully, there was no cars in the way or anything, cause any more destruction or anything like that. So got to the side, and she's like, call the ambulance. I was like, I can't see. And so she's got hung up, was trying to call, and it just didn't work out. It just, everything, they kept transferring her and everything. Luckily, my vision came back. I called the ambulance, pulled off the highway into a parking lot, and happened to be a church parking lot. And, the ambulance came and got me, and my wife had to talk me into getting to the ambulance because I was like, well, how far is it? I'll just drive. I don't want to worry about the cost of an ambulance ride or anything like that. It was stupid at the time, yeah. And she yelled at me, got in the ambulance. They took me over there. I was in fight mode. I was 100% in fight mode, ready to go into that fight, And I guess the way I came off in the ambulance wasn't convincing enough for them to take me straight into the ER, because they wheeled me out of the ambulance and took me all the way to the front registration desk, took me out of the gurney and put me in a wheelchair and said, oh, yeah, we're going to get you checked in. I was like, well, I think I need to go in a room right away. And they're like, nah, we're going to get you checked in, and they're pretty busy right now. Well, I started to have another, symptoms while I was sitting in the wheelchair, started falling out, felt like I was going to pass out. And, all I can get out was just like, help me, please, something's wrong, help me. And luckily, the nurse was right there with me, and she was like, oh my gosh, he doesn't look good. And the other nurse looked at him and was like, rush him to the back. So they took me back right away, and the doctor came right up to me and was like, what happened? And I was like, I got kicked in the stomach, I think I ruptured something. Threw me on the table, cut my shirt, ultrasound right away, call a trauma code, we're going to an emergency surgery. I was like, you need to call my wife. She's on, she's driving here, she doesn't know where I'm at. Like, we'll call her as soon as you go. I was like, no, you need to call her now, as they're wheeling me off. So he called her right in front of me. Thankfully, told him where we're at, and I went right into emergency surgery. I had almost 4 liters of blood in my stomach. They had to pump out. I had to get a blood transfusion. They were able to pump some of my blood out and recycle it or whatever and put it back in, but I ended up having to get 3 liters of infusion of blood done, and then whatever they got left of mine. So yeah, it's crazy, man. My wife got there, and just wild. They called. She's like, they called me halfway. I'm on my way, and they're like, get here as fast as you can. And so it was a close call. Definitely a miracle. And there's a lot to the story, and honestly, a lot lines up. God, man. I'm blessed. It's a miracle. God and angels definitely watching out for me, man. A lot lined up for it to be perfectly at that time to go to that hospital. It's an emergency trauma hospital. I would have been life flighted. I was, minutes away from passing. That was the last exit in Asheville. Passing that and being in the mountains where I don't really get any service or anything. So, it's a miracle that I'm here. It's a miracle that I'm able to fight again. They were telling me, no, you won't be able to fight anymore. We don't know what's going to happen, what can happen to you. It's going to really be, you could try and see what happens and if you can do it, but we don't recommend it. So it's just like, well, if I can try, I'm going to try. I can't just stop and not try, because that'll eat at me. So it's a long debate, long talks with my family, my wife, my kids, definitely. And it's just excited to be here again.
That's unbelievable, man. So I guess just the physical recovery process, was it a process to get back to fighting condition?
Yeah, it was actually really weird, because it's like they could give me no real timelines or real things to do. It was just kind of like, okay, for the first 12 weeks, try not to do more than walking. That's it. And then after that, you can kind of start testing things out, doing a little bit more. And so it was just, I was still coming off the fight, going into that fight and everything. I had it in my head already. I'm coming back. I'm going to fight again. So I didn't let myself blow up like I did when I had back surgery. I got a 240. That was, crazy. So this, I was like staying. I was like, okay, I'm gonna walk as much as I can, as much as my body will let me, and then when it comes time, I'll start picking it up slow. Ended up picking it up too quickly and suffered an internal tear, and it set me back, so I had to rest, and it would heal by itself, not have to have surgery or anything like that again, but set me back, and just ended up stepping back, talking with my coach, and we came up with a game plan of things what we're going to do, the pace we're going to do it, and that we would start and see where we get, and then as we go, we just keep a steady pace all the way up until I get cleared, and then from there, we'll continue to keep a steady pace up until whatever fight is. And so that's what we did. Little by little, started with walks, started with keeping my heart rate below 150, which is a lot harder than it seems. Go on a run, keep your heart rate below 150. I'm having to stop like a couple steps in, like what's going on here? Let me just walk for a little bit or stand still. So we did some different things conditioning-wise. We did some things prep-wise that really, ultimately, I think were better. Like I feel better than I ever have. We were able to work a lot of skill things, a lot of conditioning things differently to build different areas of my conditioning, different areas of my skills. So I feel more well-rounded. I feel super sharp, and I feel ready to go and better than I have before.
Considering all you've been through, I guess is this kind of an emotional week for you to be back here and prepping, a fight week again?
Yeah, it absolutely is. Keeping it under control and keeping it under wraps. It's been an emotional ride. It's been a long camp. Like I said, I travel for my camps. I'm away from my family, so that's even 10 times harder this time around because of the situation. The risk of hey, tomorrow's not promised. The next couple hours aren't promised. This fight isn't promised. Something could happen. I can tomorrow not wake up. Whatever. Nothing's promised. So definitely living in the moment more. So being here again, at the end of fight camp, it was that alone. And it was crazy because at the end of the fight camp, I reached in my bag, gonna head home, everything, had a great session, everything. Reached in my bag, going home, pulled my clothes out, went to shower, realized that when I changed, it's the exact same clothes that I wore that same day. Same shirt, same everything, because I had the same shirt and the one they cut off me, something in the trash somewhere, but yeah, it's the same style shirt, everything. The shorts happen to be the same shorts. I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? Like, I'm a little worried, but I don't believe in like, oh, this is bad luck if I wear this. We're going to work through it. We're going to get through it. So, yeah, rock that shirt and clothes all the way home. And it was good, man. It was a great weekend with my family. And here's fight week, man. It's been a long time coming. And I'm super excited to be here. It's definitely, it's been a ride.
That's awesome, man. On a much lighter note, you went with the multicolor fingernails this week. Was that the theme?
Yeah. Oh, my daughter, man. She picks the colors and everything. Got a little glitter on the pinky, some colors U.S., Colombia also. So, a mix of everything here. She does it all.
I dig it. Last thing for me, I guess, the battle that you got through to come back. What's the goal when you go in there? Like you said, you got to live in the here and now. So does this change the way you approach your fighting career as well? Like you're not thinking about like rankings or whatever. Does this change like what you're wanting out of a fight or what you're wanting out of your career?
I haven't thought about rankings in a while now. For me, I don't know. Anything could happen. People are moving up the rankings, out of nowhere. So I'm not really worried about rankings, not worried about fighting people in rankings, whatever. If it happens, it happens. Great. If they have a number by their name, great. If they don't, like the guy I'm fighting, great. I'm going to fight. I enjoy this. If I didn't love this, I wouldn't be here. And especially that was a big thing, talking with my family. It's like, dude, is it worth it? I felt bad wanting to come back. I felt bad wanting to continue to fight. My family is the most important thing to me. If they don't want me to fight, then I shouldn't fight, They're what they matter most, and their time being with them is what matters most. This is just, whatever. It's something I love to do for sure, but it's not that important. I can make money doing other things where I'm with them all the time, figure something out. But fighting makes it able for me to be with them a lot of the time. So, and I really love it. And so the fact that I love it, talking with them and everything, and this is the way I support my family, man, I'm happy to be here and continue to do it. And it doesn't really change how I look at the fight. I'm just going to go in there and live in the moment. I love this. It's fun. I'm going to go in there and have some fun on Saturday.
All right, guys. Bryan Barberena, man. I don't know. Look, I don't know if you guys knew the whole story, and I didn't. Maybe I missed out. But I mean, I knew he had the surgery, but I just didn't know it was quite so harrowing, man.
Yeah.
That was pretty intense to me,
dude. I tell you what, like there's I can't really imagine a reality where I'm on a fucking freeway and be like, oh shit, I'm blind.
Right?
Like, that's
and he was like, dude, fortunately there were no cars, so I just pulled over, like I didn't hit him. Can you imagine? I honestly can't imagine that. Like, you can't see anything, and you're driving in a moving vehicle.
And you have to predict where the road ends. He was like, oh, my tire dipped down, so that's when I was like, the fuck? I would have not a chance.
Oh, my God. That's crazy, man. Anyway, happy to see him back. I will say, and look, I mean, we're being honest here. That's what we do, right? It's scary, right? Like, and again, the condition he's talking about, I have no idea. Like, is that just something that your body is predisposed to, or is it just a freak accident? But, like, does that, like, are you not going to be a little bit scared when he takes, like, and, by the way, if you're Jason Witt, again, this may be a little bit dark, a little bit morbid, but if you, like, wouldn't you just come out and, like, kick him right in the body just to start with and see what happens?
He said something that, it struck a chord with me initially, and then the more I digested it, I was like, no. When he was like, oh, you know, there are risks, sure, but there's a risk I can go outside and get hit by a bus. I'm like, oh, that's true. And then I'm like, no, that's a bit like comparing, like, oh, there's a risk. You know, I could go outside with a bus ticket and stand in the bus lane. I might get hit by a bus. It's like, you know, your risk, your percentage alters a little bit. So, yeah, it does make me. I'm excited. Like, it's incredibly inspirational. You know what I mean? And I like, and dude, again, I like Bryan Barberena. I've always liked Bryan Barberena. He's got a great, he's a tough guy.
That's it, right? Puts on great fights, good dude, loves his family, but like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like I'm going into the fight like scared for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a bit different to like Brock Lesnar's directly to, you know, whatever the fuck that word is. It's a bit different to that. It does feel. Yeah, I don't know, man.
I mean, I've never even heard of it, so it can't be like something that happens frequently. But like, still, like.
Actually, it just reminds me back to Cheyenne when she kept being like, yes, I went to this doctor, he told me I have to have surgery. I went to another one, he said I have to have a surgery, but it's fine, I don't need surgery. It's okay, if you say that. But yeah, no, it is in more of a way than usual. I'll be happy to see him like leave the cage.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I agree. All right, listen, we're not going to break down all the prelims, but and again, you know, I don't want to say it's not a deep card. Look, I know a lot of people are pointing to Trevin Jones and Ronnie Lawrence as a fight that could potentially be a fight of the night type contender on the prelims, but guys, anything stand out to you is like just things you're going to be paying attention to? I mean, again, it's not the the deepest card in the world, but
you know, the Jin Yu Frey and Ashley Yoder.
Yeah, I have a feeling you might be paying attention to that fight for some reason. And clearly because of the tactics that are going to be styles.
Dude, look at her record, man. Like, she's 8-7 for God's sake. I mean, this is.
I had a feeling you would be tuned in.
I'm going to be very focused on watching on that.
To that fight, Oscar. I know you may look at things through a slightly different lens, considering. I mean, you're a journalist of the year nominee. Yeah. I imagine you might.
See, I don't have that pressure. I can just still be a dude.
Yeah, I'm a journalist of the year who doesn't know who half of these motherfuckers are. Yeah, no. Listen, I think you know the old adage that if you don't know the names on the card's always the best. Well, never before has that been put to the test as with this card. I will say, like, the return of Nico Montano.
Man, snake bit career.
Yeah,
like,
just you know, it's such a shame, and this is kind of the negative, the mercilessness of fans, right? Like, she missed weight, but I guess we haven't really understood. She missed weight in like the most fucked up, like dangerous way.
Yep.
And for that, she'll be forever tarred as this like terrible champion and stuff. So it'd be nice to see her get back and get to put some of those demons to rest. Chris Gruetzemacher. He's not too bad.
That's the best you can muster up.
Chavez Kamaka is going to be a good one.
Dude,
he's not too bad.
That wasn't even an act, dude. I just literally read his name. I was like, oh, he's not too bad. Yeah. Ashley Yoder's, you know, Ken likes her, so that's good. Yeah.
No, it's not the deepest prelims. Again, you're right. It will be put to the test as to whether or not, you know, the ones who don't like. But I am intrigued by the Nico story, man. I feel like she's another one that I almost feel sorry for. Like, I just feel like she's been ostracized for some. I mean, I get why, but
she got the Durand of me hate, you know, where it's just like people just decide this is the person we're piling on, and I think she's a bit of a sweetheart.
I do too, actually. It was crazy. It is. How about this? This is kind of crazy. So we did the media day, and as we were wrapping up, I saw her walking in to do. Now again, we were just talking to the folks on the main card, right? But like, it is weird to be like, that's a former UFC champion walking through. Just we're not talking to her.
But is it because she came straight off a tough? You think?
Yeah, definitely.
Because I feel like Carla still doesn't really get that rub either, you know? Like,
I agree.
Because Carla came off tough and then got.
Because when you see a former UFC champion, like that means something, man. You know, like
there's not that many of them.
That's right. But I think you're absolutely right. The ones that get awarded it on The Ultimate Fighter,
yeah, it's tough.
Don't get that same respect.
Tough. But yeah, Durandamy doesn't get it either, right?
No,
yeah.
she really doesn't.
All women.
Maybe that's it.
These bronze leaders.
Oh, too funny. All right, listen.
Further, doesn't the guy Ryan? I don't know how you say his name. Koski.
Mm-hmm.
He's a badass, isn't he?
Yep.
That's starting the night off. I think he's undefeated.
Well,
I remember his name. That could be.
Orion's a cool name, right? But did he fight on Fight Island, or did he? No, actually,
he was Contender Series. Yeah, and he like destroyed it.
I tell you what, I don't think this next season is going to be the same. Not to drag the pod out, but the Contender Series usually produces like sick little fighters.
Right.
They must be running out of fucking people by now.
We'll see. I don't know, man. Some of the names they put out there, like I will say this, they've started to announce a couple of the fights. There's a lot of international talent.
I believe this is the international season.
Yeah,
right?
so I'm pretty. I will say. By the way, yeah, that's starting in a couple weeks, basically, right? We're gonna be back. We're gonna be doing. I was
2 weeks.
Dude, I was making a joke, man. Like we could just leave.
Is it 2 weeks time?
No, 2 a week.
2 a week because we'll have Tuesday night fights and Saturday night fights at the same venue. I was joking, like we should just leave our gear at the Apex. You know what I mean?
Remember the
we asked them that before. They said we just couldn't guarantee the safety of it, and I was like, yeah, all right.
I'll take my fucking chance, to be honest, dude. Like
I'd love to be able to leave my tripod and all that stuff.
Do you remember the last time we did the last time we did 2 weeks was in the tent in the parking lot? Do you remember? Yeah. Like also, how funny is this? There's a period of time where we were in the tent in the parking lot and we were angry, like, why can't we stay in this tent in the parking lot?
I said that. I did because at first they brought us in, but they had us in that back room. And that
was because if you did the tent in the parking lot, you didn't have to test, right? Wasn't that it? Like, so once you got brought inside, you had to take an extra
We had
test.
pure Stockholm syndrome. Like, I don't want to go inside.
Even though we get as close to the fighter as we do now.
Yeah.
It was just the fact that we'd be inside, and it's like we were tainting the air or something.
I know.
I wonder if we have to go back to COVID testing at some point. Like,
yeah, I'm curious about that too, man. Like this is like way too behind the scenes.
Better not for us.
No, but this has been our life for a year and a half. Our life for a year and a half has been built around COVID.
I'm curious, man, because if it's masks for everybody, the next logical step would be tests for everybody, right?
Has to be. Can't be that far away.
I'll be a salty little.
I thought I was done at 104. It looks like it may be picking up the list again. All right, listen. We're not covering Bellator 263. Obviously, we do have a lot of coverage out there. Danny Segura is out there. Nolan King, the mayor of the Fight Sphere, has made his way out to Los Angeles. The Baron of Bellator has made his way. Simon Spano, of course, lives in Los Angeles area, so he's covering it as well. I don't think he's covering Fight Night. He's got some family plans going on, but he's been covering Fight Week. I just want to make a mention of it because, look, it's a good card. It's a really good card. The main card especially is great. I mean, Bellator is doing a much better job of putting meaningful fights on the prelims now. It's no longer just, local ticket sellers, that sort of thing. So the prelims are full of contracted fighters as well. It's a good prelims as well. But the main card is very, very solid. Islam Mamedov versus Brent Primus is one that's kind of flying under the radar that could be a fantastic fight. Usman Nurmagomedov is on there. That's a great one. Mads Burnell versus Emmanuel Sanchez could be an absolute banger. Mads is legit, man. I think he got a raw deal in the UFC, man. I think he should still be there.
A mad talent.
But it all boils down to Patricio Pitbull Freire and AJ McKee. To me, I'm going to be honest with you, I honestly believe it's the biggest fight in Bellator history. Now, here's what's funny is, you say biggest fight in Bellator history, you start talking about like Chael Sonnen fights and Kimbo fights and that sort of thing. They may end up like those may have gotten better numbers, but this to me meaningful.
Meaningful, yes, especially homegrown talent.
So that's what I mean. Like,
yeah. But out of curiosity, what is numbers-wise? What would be? Would it be? Is Kimbo versus someone?
It's got to be
Kimbo Dada.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think it probably fucking is Kimbo Dada. A man nearly died in that fight.
I did pretty crazy numbers.
But what about Kimbo Ken?
That's got to be there. I mean,
ironically enough, the biggest fight in Bellator history would have been Kimbo versus Chael or Kimbo Fedor.
So
Do you know
true.
what I mean? That's what it actually would have been.
So true. So that's what. So when I say it's the biggest, like, I don't necessarily want to mean statistically. Like, I don't know what the ratings mean, and of course, we're not even going to see the ratings, right? Because it's on Showtime, they don't release ratings. But to me, in terms of impact, and I'll even say, like, because I think some people might throw out, well, what about Alvarez Chandler? And that's too.
That's too early, though.
It was too early. You're exactly right. It was too early, especially in Chandler's development. That was the time where people were like, I don't know about this Chandler guy. He's just over there, starching cans in Bellator or whatever. This, to me, is two guys that are ranked, two guys that are just, legit. And as you said, homegrown talent. These are guys that made their entire. This is not imports brought in from somewhere else. With Alvarez Chandler, you had the homegrown talent Chandler, but you brought over Eddie Alvarez, right?
This is like the one where it's like if they had their era of Bellator's the place for the old fighters. This can be the era where it's like, no, we're starting our own stamp on MMA. This could be that fight,
Completely agree.
And being Bellator, it'll end with a fucking eye poke or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Some fucking
my
tragedy.
God, knocking on wood right now. Please don't let that happen. So big card. Like I said, we got full coverage of MMA Junkie. Nolan King, the mayor of the Fight Sphere, the Baron of Bellator.
He's hoping that stick.
He's been crushing it.
Trying.
Danny Segura over there as well in the Time Smiles. We got full coverage over there. Won't spend a ton of time talking about it. Will be happening at the exact same time. Hopefully I won't get in too much trouble because I will have a small little window of my browser open in one corner. I've only done that one. I did it with the Triller fight, the last Triller fight.
Having it open in the room?
Yeah, in the Apex. Which I don't think they cared about that, but it will be interesting to see if somebody walks up and be like, you really need to turn that Bellator off here in the Apex.
I've done it twice. One time with Triller, with Askren versus Jake Paul. I had it and I was trying to be all sneaky, and then I, in the middle of the room, I just went, "Oh my God!" He just slept Ben Askren like that in front of everyone, so that didn't work. And there was a time I was watching a Bellator event, and a member of the PR walked past, and she went, "What's that on your screen?" And I was like, trying to, I've fucking been caught watching porn or something. I was like, no.
That's basically what it is. It's like somebody walking in and you watching some porn. That's hilarious, man. All right, well. World MMA Award nominated Oscar Willis, appreciate your time. I know you got to run. I know you got a schedule. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. We're gonna carry on. I know it's a busy Thursday night without question.
Thanks for coming, Oscar.
Thanks for not teasing my MMA Award nomination and really being a bit of bitch about it. See you later, guys.
Hilarious. Thank you, brother. All right, listen. We've talked about the UFC. We've broken it down. We've talked about a little Bellator. I feel like we still, got a little bit more time, a little bit more energy left in us. But
where should we go?
I don't know where to go.
Where do we go?
Coach Coffee, I don't know where to go. How do I know what we should do next at this point in time? Can you help me understand where we should take this podcast?
I wonder if we should go to the roadmap.
We're so terrible at that.
Cue the non-existent roadmap. I'm gonna work on that. It's on a to-do list.
The audio.
I'm just happy that I remember now to ask for the roadmap submission.
Yes. By the way,
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, that's right. From what I understand, you do have a jingle coming. The music is set up for it, but from what I understand, it's been tracked at this point. But you're remastering
in my furthest depths of my mind, the track's been.
He laid it all down.
Yeah, the idea that it's just I just got to get it on tape. Just got to get it in there. So.
By the way, should mention if you enjoy what you listen to, please wherever you're watching, listening. If you're watching, that would be weird because we don't do video. But if you're listening and you want to go ahead and just rate us and review us, we'd appreciate that. The feedback helps us out. I guess if you're watching, you're actually here inside Buffalo Wild Wings right now, War Springs and Durango. So you, sir, can you please make sure and rate us and review us? Thank you very much. I appreciate that. For anyone else, if you'll just help us out wherever you're listening. And if you want to take your game to the next level, patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. You can sign up to support us for as little as $3 a month. That's nothing. You'd buy us a cold beer if you saw us, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's like you're buying us a cold beer. Because basically that is what we're doing. We're taking your money and we're buying cold beer with it. Yeah. I mean, we are, paying for the server fees and all those things we have to do as well. But it helps us out quite a bit. And you get exclusive access to the and a half shows that we do every week. And also, you get to submit to the roadmap.
And you're also getting tips from the number 1 and number 2 picks guys right now. For you gamblers out there.
Hashtag just saying.
Just saying. It might help a little bit.
All right,
so our first one, there's a couple submissions from our friend Daniel, so I'll go ahead and start with the first one.
All right.
Hey, boys, I recently saw a YouTube clip about Joe Rogan's take on the UFC Helwani situation. He mentioned that, I am paraphrasing, one of the reasons Ariel wanted to break the news first was because he wanted to shine and to be popular. The other point was that the UFC is a private company and has the right to break its news and also the right to refuse access to reporters. I understand both points, and since I'm not a journalist, I'll leave you both to elaborate a little bit for me, if that's okay with y'all, even that the point has been beaten to a pulp already. Sorry for the long-winded question. Keep it frosty. Dan, a.k.a. the real Haitian sensation.
The real Haitian sensation. He's got some problem with Neil Magny. No, listen. Okay, so he included a link to the clip, and I did have to go listen to this clip because I was not familiar with this. I had not heard this clip before. I'm going to preface it by saying it sounds like it's very old to me. It sounds like that was from like years ago, back when the whole UFC 199 situation was happening. I don't know if that's accurate, but based on the quotes that were given in there, it sounded like this was back in those days. I'll preface it with that. I don't think this is a new clip. And so maybe Rogan's views have changed on it since then. But what I will say is Ariel Helwani was 100% in the right to break any and all news that he deemed fit, right? Any and all that he discovered, that he reported on, all that. The problem came in, and I think Ariel has talked about this, the problem came in that he worked for Fox, but his checks were cut by the UFC. And so Dana and the UFC, I think, essentially considered him to be working for them. And that's why, Ariel's opened up about like, I wish I wouldn't have done that. It was and it is considered a conflict of interest. When you hear things talk about conflict of interest, this is exactly it. Ariel didn't feel that he was doing anything wrong. He gathered this information. He thought, is that the whole thing about, but it's a UFC announcement. They wanted to make the announcement. That's not our job. Like, we don't if we break news that before the UFC does, like, it's not our job to be. So here's the thing: is that, like, had that been, for instance, me or Oscar Willis or somebody else that broke that news, Dana couldn't say anything because we don't work for him. Like, we're just reporting news. Is it factually correct? Yes, it's factually correct. So then what have we done wrong? Well, we wanted to announce it. Well, sorry, I heard it ahead of time and I decided to announce it because I thought people needed to know the news. So Ariel didn't do anything wrong in terms of as a journalist. So you say as a journalist, Ariel didn't do anything wrong. The problem is that there was a conflict of interest in the fact that his check was coming from Zuffa, and therefore Zuffa looked at him as a UFC employee. Now, was he? Not technically. He worked for Fox, but that's where the whole conflict of interest situation comes in, and they felt like, hey, they should be able to tell him, like, no, don't announce this. So I understand Dana's point of view, because if he's cutting a check, and from his point of view, he's like, bro, I'm writing a check to you. Don't ruin our announcements. But that's where the whole, like, is he an employee? Is he not an employee? Who's he working for came in. So I think Ariel's touched on this over the years. So as a journalist, Ariel did absolutely nothing wrong. However, as he's admitted, there was a conflict of interest, and that made it a little bit gray, and that's why Dana got pissed off. And believe me, there's a whole lot of backstory between Dana and Ariel and the conflicts that they've had. There's a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes. So I guess if anybody thinks like that's the only thing that ever angered, like that's the reason Dana doesn't like Ariel, that's not it.
That might have been the straw that just broke the camel's back. That was the
straw that broke the camel's back. But bottom line is, as a journalist, absolutely not. Ariel didn't do anything wrong in reporting the information, but because of the gray area, the conflict of interest, that's why it became an issue, and he's admitted as much publicly. He wishes he hadn't done that. It was, but that's why Dana got pissed, because Dana was treating him as if he was an employee, even if he wasn't technically an employee.
And I remember, and it got a little nasty too, because when Dana, being Dana and flew off the rails, he didn't just lash out at Dana. He lashed out at the whole organization, and he actually banned for a short time Esther, Casey, had them all, escorted from a venue, and that was just really, really shitty. And I think after the fact, he was like, "You're right. I kind of flew off the hinge," and and the powers.
Yeah, there was absolutely they had no reason to pull Casey and Esther out of there.
Yeah, cooler heads kind of got him back in that. But you're right, and I can't say it any better than that. I can just only attest to the fact that as an employee, as a former employee, the UFC is very particular in how they want to deliver their story, their information, everything. Everything is filtered through a certain lens. So, if there was any sort of inkling in Dana's mind or the UFC's organization that Ariel was an employee, I could see where completely they would have took it as a slight if they were like, bro, we had plans for this. This is what we spend money to schedule when this stuff is released. And that's why it always irked the PR team when Dana would release information that he wouldn't. And that's the stuff that all the journalists love, because they were like, Dana, tell it. You got any news? You going to break
Right.
anything? And that still happens to this day.
Jin Wink used to be hilarious. Jin Wink
Yeah.
was a former head of PR for the UFC. Used to sit in on those scrums. This is back when Dana used to do like the 45 minutes with us afterwards. And it was so hilarious because you'd see her back behind Dana, and first she'd be taking notes, like what has he broken that screwed up our plans? And he would say stuff, and she would just be like shit, and it wasn't like an obvious shaking her head. But you know how like you subtly like you don't even really mean to, and you're just like.
You know what I mean? Or her whole demeanor changed.
It's hilarious.
You know, so I mean, I can see that. So yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think it would have been completely different if it was just them. If they saw an outside entity breaking news, they have no legs to stand on when they get upset. So unfortunately, that's what that whole situation. But we haven't seen it since.
Yep.
You know, I mean I think that a lot of people kind of learned. You know, what to do and what not to do. And I think the UFC also, you know, kind of just realized, hey, you know, be better tight-lipped about your shit. But most of the stuff to get people go now, they just go to the managers. They don't go to the UFC. You know, what can the UFC really ever break anymore? Because it's already been released.
And they do. And, you know, the UFC, I know for a time they used to be really very much like, if this news gets – I mean, I've heard that they would say behind the scenes, if this news gets out of this booking, we'll take the fight away.
Yeah.
Because we know it's you, and we'll take the fight away. But I think they've kind of softened their stance on that, where they're just like, it's not that
That's why it's always funny when they release on the pay-per-views or something. They're like, here's the shows coming up. Everybody's like, okay, yeah, we were right about that. We were right about this. We were right about that. Okay, let's just – now we have it confirmed.
That's funny.
You know, so sorry. So there's that question from Daniel. Now we're going to jump down to our favorite guy that loves to tease you, Joe from H-Town. Would Leon Edwards have gotten a title shot if he was an active Trump supporter? I just totally disagree with Colby getting the next shot when Leon is right there. Dana favors people all the time, even if they show up to his poker table with his side piece on camera. SMH shaking my head.
Oh, Joe from H-Town. Well, we look forward to
poke the bear.
Look forward to getting down to H-Town, and I think Joe said he's going to bring the cooler by. So I appreciate that. Unfortunately, cold coffee won't be in H-Town, but you know what? I will consume cold coffee's beverages for him, and I will up.
You're going to fall asleep even that much sooner.
I will up my dude. Last time it was rough. All right. Okay. Yeah. Listen. Obviously, Joe from H-Town likes to poke the bear and joke a little bit. I can't justify why Leon Edwards doesn't have a title shot at this point, to be honest with you. I guess we're saying that Colby Covington has some Dana White privilege.
I think that's what this boils down to. Is this another case of Dana White privilege coming out?
It's Dana White privilege. But you know what? Here's what's interesting is because you said it. You know, the poker room incident at the Palms, and it's just the fact that Colby. I mean, good Lord. I mean, the things he says sometimes, the way he riles people up. I don't know that necessarily Colby's one of like Dana's favorites.
Right.
I just think that fight was one of his favorites, and it was, right? I mean, he tested Usman, right? I mean, he really did test Usman, and I think, this is an opportunity. And I hate to say it, but Leon Edwards, he doesn't move the needle, which is, which is ironic because that was the quote that was used to describe Nate Diaz, the infamous quote, and Nate Diaz does very clearly move the needle, and it's a damn shame. I mean, Leon Edwards wins 24 of 25 minutes against Nate Diaz, and the storyline comes out as, if that's a street fight, you would have gotten slept and you're dead. And what I do not like the treatment of Leon Edwards, but I think there was a situation that he wasn't necessarily exactly ready to fight either. And I know Usman is wanting to take that fight. So, look, at the end of the day, I know that Joe from H-Town is not the biggest Dana White fan in the world, so anything he can do to pick him apart, he's going to. But in this particular instance, I think some of it has been Edwards, I should say, own doing. But damn, man, I wish he would have a title. I hope he doesn't have to fight again, man. I hope they'll give him that.
I'm going to let you read over Daniel's question, see if you can make sense of what he was trying to ask there. And I'll just chime in the fact that, is this Dana White privilege? Who knows? I mean, I think it is more of the matter of, with Colby, everybody's going to be talking about it. Whether it's good or it's bad. Does he cross the line sometimes? Sure. But does he ever cross it to a crazy degree? I felt like today, some of the stuff that Sean Strickland actually took it further. There was some stuff today where I was like, okay, that's just really, really
towards
bad.
the end of it, we didn't play the whole thing. Like I said, towards the end of it, he started talking about wars.
Yeah, and whether this country should get bombed and all this other stuff. And it's just like, okay, you're going a whole nother level, that even even Colby doesn't say. Colby
Yeah.
will call him a snowflake and this, but he's not calling for American deaths
Yep.
or something. And it's not that Sean actually said that, but that's when you ask for this country to get bombed. That's what you're kind of what you're saying. But can you make sense of what Daniel was saying there?
The real Haitian sensation chimed in again. But you know what, man? When you're supporting the show, you get to have 2 questions if you want. He said, I'm going to take the liberty and ask some more questions. What happened to, he said, me Jones, the conspiracy theorist, that y'all got fired from the UFC? Just kidding, not LOL. That's Fiasco Jones. That I
now I get it.
That I guess we did get fired from the UFC. I mean, technically
you did. You said his name and said that he worked for the UFC. I actually didn't.
I appreciate you giving me the credit, man. That's one thing about you is that credit where credit is due. You always say, hey, man, it's not just me, it's you. So thanks, bro. In this particular situation, I really appreciate the fact that you give me that kind of credit, and I can, you never try to take credit away from me.
I guess I will take credit. I did suggest that we bring Fiasco on that day.
You did. You're
that
like,
was
we should
my
get
idea.
Fiasco.
Okay, sorry. So
I'll
take my part of the blame. Fiasco's doing okay. Fiasco actually, he's doing video work for a fitness company where he's.
Please don't name it.
I don't even remember what the name of it is. Honestly, I don't even remember what the name of it.
The last time we named where he worked, he got fired from it, so I really don't.
No, he's back at the
Pepsi body plant.
He's back at the Pepsi plant. He's back staring at the windows and saying weird things. So he's doing video and he's not doing as much shooting, if at all. He's doing more video editing. But supposedly the business is well. I actually tried him and asked him the other day because we went and saw a baseball game together. I was like, dude, you got some side work or something? And he said business picking up. So he's doing well. So it's weird. I didn't catch on that's what that question was going. I was thinking John Jones, but now when you read the conspiracy theories, I was like, okay, that makes sense.
He has an entire podcast about conspiracy theories, basically, right?
Yeah, or weird, like random stuff, odd things in the world, So a lot of it, it's conspiracy theory stuff. But no, he's doing well. He's doing well. His kid Charlie is, I forget Charlie's age. Charlie's growing up, getting big. Him and his wife won another Emmy together, or they won an Emmy together. She won like another Emmy on her own. She's got like 50,000 of them. So no, he's doing well. But yeah, I saw him the other day and played some ball. We watched a ball game. So he's doing pretty good.
And if you're one of the many MMA Roadshow listeners who could not get enough Fiasco Jones in your life, Odd Normal is the name of his podcast.
Odd Normal, yeah.
Odd Normal is the name of his podcast.
Yeah.
So check that out.
Because I couldn't remember if he changed the name from that, but I think Odd Normal is what
Hopefully that's
the
it.
name. But yeah, if not,
maybe I just got fired from that podcast too. That's always
he's doing good.
That's
but
always going to weigh heavy on me. That's always going to weigh heavy.
We'll have him back on. And honestly, it would have happened eventually. He was butting heads with people or whatever there. So it's one of the things that, I think he can joke and laugh about it now because he landed on his feet and actually makes more money now than what he was making.
Oh, wow.
So
you can thank me, Fiasco Jones. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have taken that chance on your. I knew that Fiasco Jones wasn't betting on himself enough.
That's it.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to get this guy fired so that he can improve his life.
That's it.
And you know what, Fiasco? You don't have to thank me for it. I know. I understand. You appreciate me getting you fired, and you're welcome.
Okay, when this last question, I'm glad that Oscar took off because this is not a question that he would have been able to be around. This is actually a message that came straight to us from Brent Barnett, longtime supporter. Love that dude.
Yeah.
Greetings, John and CC. With all the controversy surrounding Conor McGregor with his post-fight comments and recent tweets aimed at Khabib, do you think that the sport deserves a better ambassador as its bigger star? Can't dispute the eyeballs he's brought to the sport, but he really doesn't seem to have many redeeming qualities to be a positive role model, especially when looking at other champs, both past and present, like DC, GSP, and Couture, to name a few. His tasteless talk isn't entertaining anymore, and it feels like he's trying to grab headlines by being offensive, as he can't do it with winning big fights. Keep up the great work. Can't wait to hear Jojo or Mark Hunt on as guests again. We'll have to dig them up. We'll have to call them up, sometime. But yeah, so that's good. So that's Brent taking the hot take right there.
Yeah, listen, I'll just say short answer, yes. I wish Conor was a better role model, man. And I know that may sound silly, because it's not like just because somebody is a great athlete or a great fighter in any sport, an athlete in any sport, that they need to be a role model. I think it was Charles Barkley.
That's true.
Yeah, I think it was Charles Barkley who years ago said, like, I'm not raising your kids, you're raising your kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, well, I got to be a role
I signed
model.
up to
Like,
be a ball player.
That's it. And so, I agree. You know what I mean? But and maybe it's just me too. But like, I love the feel good stories, man. I love cheering for good people, and I love seeing good things happen to good people, and I love to see that. And yeah, I mean, look. The tweet about Khabib's father, to me, like, I just don't know how you justify that. And I know that a lot of people have already talked about it, so it's not as like I'm bringing some fresh take about it. But even after his last fight, I wrote a column that was like, hey, reinvention is what's needed here, not a rematch with Dustin Poirier. I mean, we need to change things, and it's just it's a shame because on the one hand, like, I miss that Conor that was clever. You know what I mean? Like when he used to be on that stage, and there'd be 30 people up there, but he was the quickest-witted one, and you were like, oh, my God, look at what he just did to Jeremy Stevens. You know what I mean? Listen to this latest quote today. And we were hanging on every word he says, and now there's just nothing clever about it anymore. And I get it, man. Maybe, and again, who knows? Like, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes there. You're like, maybe this is all orchestrated. Like, Conor is a master marketer, man. I mean, look at what he's been able to do. Look at what he's been able to
orchestrated fall from grace.
Well, not necessarily orchestrating the fall from grace, but orchestrating. You know what? Now I'm just going to go full heel. Like now, how much money did Floyd Mayweather make from people that were buying pay-per-views to see him lose? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know many people that were like, you know what? I'm buying this Floyd Mayweather pay-per-view because I love that guy.
Yeah.
I just love that guy, and I want to see his latest
exhibitions.
No, yeah,
it's like exhibition bouts.
And even when he was still doing real, it was like, I want to see this guy lose. Like, I want to tune in to see this guy. I think this is the guy that's going to kick Floyd Mayweather's ass. That's what I want to watch. And maybe Conor's doing that. Maybe just saying, you know what? I've lost I'm no longer the plumber's apprentice. Now I'm the rich guy with the Lamborghini yacht. You know what I mean? Like now maybe
that yacht is
like
dope.
it is a pretty cool yacht. I'm not gonna lie. Pretty cool pictures of it. I didn't even know a Lamborghini yacht existed, but it's pretty damn cool. But
I
maybe
wonder if it's fast.
it might have some speed to it. But I just wonder if maybe he's saying, like, I mean, it could all be a master thing that, like, hey, I realize this is inappropriate. I realize this is out of line. I realize this is over the top. But I'm doing this because I want the world to hate me, because I want them to buy the pay-per-view wanted me. It could be that. But even that doesn't make it justifiable to me. To talk about a man's dead father, it's just not okay. And I said before, like, leave race, religion, out of it. You know what I'm saying? Leave family out of it. I don't think that stuff has a place in the sport. And again, I'm not the pearl-clutching guy that says, oh, he said mean things. No, you're going to say mean things. I get it. But leave family, race, and religion out of it. But a man's dead father, and not only a man's dead father, but a man's dead father that was like his mentor for life, who is clear like the most important figure in his entire life. You know what you're doing.
And a guy that you just previously praised, a while back as well. When he was sick, when he was hoping him to, get better, and praised his skill. But now you're gonna turncoat.
It's just tasteless, man. It's tasteless in any context, and it's tasteless. There's not a moment on earth they'd be like, yeah, I get why you said that. You're talking about a man's dead father, man. Stop. Yeah. Stop. So, yeah, it's a shame because, listen, Conor McGregor, I always say it, biggest star in the history of the sport. I believe when he fights again, when that leg heals up, he's going to sell 1 million pay-per-views, and it doesn't matter who the fight's against. If it happens to be against Nate Diaz, it's going to be a blockbuster. But it doesn't matter who they put him in there against. He'll still sell 1 million pay-per-view buys, man. Yeah. He has entrenched himself in the social structure of the world, really, and that's not going to go away. But yeah, if Conor McGregor, was Dustin Poirier in terms of personality, but was Conor McGregor in terms, maybe that's impossible. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe you can't be both things. But yeah,
like you can't be that super rich and still be a nice guy.
I guess you know what I mean. I saw something the other day. I don't know if Khabib actually said this, but it was in our chat the other day. No, you know what it was? It was a comment on MMA Junkie, because we have to edit the comments and stuff. And somebody said, Khabib said it. And I don't remember seeing this, so I don't know if it's true or not. But he said, money doesn't change you. Money just shows who you are. Now, I don't even know if that's a Khabib quote. That sounds like it could have been anybody's quote. I don't know if Khabib said it. But it does make you wonder. You know what I mean? Like, does this just mean, obviously none of us can relate to who Conor McGregor is right now. We'll never understand that degree of fame, fortune, all those things. But I do not like this version of Conor McGregor. I just don't like it, and it's worked for him. He's taken care of his family for generations to come, So who am I to sit here as a journalist who lives check to check, paying my bills, you know what I mean? Who am I to sit here and weigh in on why I think he's right or wrong or he's good or bad or whatever? He's clearly incredible at what he does and has done well for himself. But me personally, John Morgan, doesn't like this version of Conor McGregor, and I hope he can change, because that guy that was the fastest-witted dude in the room, that was hilarious, that was, you know, incredible, like, that guy was fun to cover. I don't really enjoy covering this version of Conor McGregor. So, I wish, you know, at the end of the day, cage fighters as role models. Do we deserve better role models in a sport where men strip down to their underwear and punch each other senseless in a steel cage? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'd like for it to be that way. Like, one of the things that I love about mixed martial arts is how respectful people are. That is one thing that's always drawn me to it, is these dudes and girls go out there and they try to I don't want to say kill each other, because they're not trying that, but I mean, they go out there and beat each other senseless for 15 or 25 minutes. But that hug at the end, man, that embrace where it's like, bro.
You love seeing it.
Oh, man, you know, that was insane. Thank you. When you hear that, when you see two battered, bloody people, and the first thing they say is, thank you. That was awesome. That was awesome. Like, oh, that's so cool, man. That I don't like seeing what I'm seeing anymore, so I hope it can change, because Conor McGregor's still a star. He's still going to sell pay-per-views, but I would like to be inspired more by him and happy to be around him. So.
Yeah, and I think you touched upon it for right at the beginning of that, and I think it's one of those things that we as people that view sports have a really, really bad habit of is, you're right, none of these guys, we ask if it's a better ambassador, none of these guys have a part in their contract where it says, oh, by the way, you have to also agree to be the flag bearer for our sport. You have to be the person that's willing to have little kids look up to you, and make sure that you handle yourself in a certain way, because they're not getting paid to do that sort of thing.
Right.
You know, that just happens to be a side thing, and I think we as sports fans have a bad habit of putting our dreams and hopes on these people that have been able to excel at something that we as kids have always loved to do, whether it be this sport or that sport. You know, I think one of the things that drives these athletes, of course, is that self-drive, but there always is that part in there too, that adoration, that people want to be able to walk down the street and have somebody look at them and say, oh, that's that dude. You know, how can you not? I love that. But on the flip side of that, if people are going to be looking at you and they're going to be having these wonderful thoughts that you know that you're like, oh, I like that feeling of somebody look at me, you got to understand that people are going to look at you, and you are, unfortunately, a role model for some. You are that person. Unfortunately, in Conor's thing, this last couple years or whatever, the side of him that we've seen, it's unfortunate, because this is a guy that we've all respect his story. You respect his grind and his hustle.
The plumber's apprentice to the $100 million paycheck.
You know
what I mean?
I mean, it's unbelievable. It's such a wonderful story. And like I said, even the last time, and I'm not going to go far because I think you said it great, is that at this point, I just want to hear a great story of him being a great father, being a great role model to his children. He doesn't need to be a role model to anybody else outside of that. And if he could be happy and proud and say, I'm a role model, I'm a person that I want my kids to be proud of. And that's more than just being, say, like, they're going to be proud of me because I provided for their life for the rest of their life. They're never going to have to work for anything. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's good in the sense that they're never going to struggle.
Right.
But, part of why you are who you are is the struggle. If you completely erase struggle from what builds character, I think a lot of us know people, rich kids that grew up and were little shits, Not to saying that that's going to be destined for what is kids, but if you're happy and you're the role model that you think your kids are happy, that are going to be good for, that's all I care for Conor at this point. I just want him to be proud and have good stories and have great memories with his kids. That's all I need from him at this point, because all this excess shit is just crap, and it just erodes and takes away from all the great memories that made us admire what his story was from the get-go. That's all I hope. So I don't want him to not be the ambassador for the sport, because his story is the kind of shit that little kids people will pick themselves up by their bootstraps and will take themselves to another level. I always want that story. This stuff here at the end, we could do a little bit without it. Maybe this is the point, and I end on a joke, but at some point somebody had the wherewithal to say, hey, maybe Brittany, it was good. We need to put Brittany under conservatorship. Somebody needs to help shape it. is Conor at that point?
Yeah.
Does somebody need to step in and say, let me handle your business things, let me handle whatever, you just get back to taking care of you and your family, and let's stop this further
It's a
eroding.
funny parallel, but it's interesting.
It really, really is, because Brittany she was the biggest star at the time. She was huge, but she just slowly started doing things that people were like, what is going on?
Leave Conor alone.
Leave Conor alone. So yeah, but that's a tough question, Brent, because we love what Conor helps bring in. And
I don't know the sport deserves something, but I'd like to see it.
And that's the thing. Like, he never asked to be an ambassador role model. Unfortunately, being in his position in his story, he's going to be. I'm just happy that there are a lot of really good, positive role models in our sport. It doesn't always have to be on his shoulders. Somebody else can take the mantle. It's just unfortunate. His platform is so huge. Of course, you want good things, but it is what it is. It's like you boil it down to, it's a sport where men and women get half naked and beat the shit out of themselves. What can we really expect?
That's it. Crazy. Well, appreciate the questions, everybody. Thank you for contributing to the roadmap.
Yes.
And anybody that wants to do that,
one way or another.
Patreon.com/The MMA Roadshow. We would certainly appreciate that. All right, listen, we've rambled on long enough. Again, big dual event weekend, UFC on ESPN 28, Bellator 263. We will have full coverage of both at MMA Junkie, and, of course, we will have the and a half episode after UFC on ESPN 28. So tune in for that. In the meantime, we'll just say to everybody, thanks for listening.
We'll be right back.